Chapter 198 Body Reconstruction. There were many blue ice crystals flowing in the clouds, each of them about 10 feet wide. Wang Lin scanned the area and found a total of 94 ice crystals. After scanning the area, he discovered that one of the ice crystals was smaller than the rest. Wang Lin immediately recognized it as the ice crystal that Sky Devil Magician tried to get when he opened that tunnel. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He finally understood that the ancient god's inheritance of knowledge wasn't just one ice crystal, but 94 of them. The part that Wang Lin had absorbed wasn't even 1% of it. Wang Lin was here as his soul. After pondering a little, his soul landed on top of that ice crystal. The moment his soul touched it, the ice crystal suddenly melted and fused with Wang Lin's soul. Waves of majestic memories entered Wang Lin's soul. As time passed, the memories came to him faster and faster. Wang Lin's soul became like an expanding cloud. Countless complex chants, countless strange technique, and countless fragments of memories stormed into Wang Lin's mind like roaring dragons. His soul was torn apart, then reassembled. As that cycle continued, tidal waves of pain completely engulfed Wang Lin. In reality, Wang Lin shouldn't have been able to feel anything in his soul form, but he was feeling pain all over his soul, as if there were countless insects devouring him. This feeling stayed with him. Even when he absorbed the first part of the inheritance back then, he didn't have this feeling. Little by little, he lost control of his soul. Part of it flew out in thin lines and eventually surrounded him to form a cocoon. The cocoon formed by his soul glowed blue like the ice crystals. In fact, it looked just like a slightly larger ice crystal. While this process took place, Wang Lin's soul entered a state of chaos. He had experienced this feeling before when he first absorbed part of the inheritance. Even after experiencing it once before, the first time could be compared to a trickling stream, while this time it was like a raging river. He felt like a leaf on the raging river, helplessly being swept with the ups and downs of the rapids. Every wave would make his pain worse. Suddenly he saw a light in front of his eyes. Soon, a familiar scene appeared before him. There was an empty space with countless specks of light glowing before him. This scene Wang Lin had seen before. Upon seeing the scene again, he suddenly gained a bit of understanding. The moment he gained that little understanding, the pain that he had been experiencing disappeared without a trace. Soon after, a feeling of numbness immediately began to spread from every part of his soul. The countless chants, techniques, and memories moving in his soul finally calmed down and completely integrated into it. Slowly, Wang Lin felt his soul move forward, and those specks of light became larger and larger. Eventually, they became giant planets. Soon, he saw the large body of the ancient god. Wang Lin already knew that the youth he saw before was the ancient god Tusi when he was a child, and the giant before him, who was the size of a planet, was the adult Tusi. Tusi's face looked very normal. The only exception was that there were 8 stars in a circle between his eyebrows. In addition, his skin was very rough and contained countless cracks. However, the cracks were barely visible. They were hard to notice if you didn't examine Tusi very carefully. But after carefully observing him, there were countless cracks. His skin looked like a cracked shell. At this point, Tusi's eyes were bursting with light, staring at a planet in the distance with a thoughtful look on his face. Soon after, his large hand lightly reached out and made a grabbing motion, causing that planet to shatter into dust and disappear among the countless specks. From the dust cloud flew out a golden light. With a wave of his hand, the golden light changed directions and flew toward Tusi. Soon, the golden light landed in his hand and became a golden nugget. The object was clearly some sort of material. It looked like gold but wasn't tea. It was stone but not stone. It had sections of black lines on it. While holding it, Tusi made another grabbing gesture with his other hand and another planet exploded. And so, just like that, after an unknown amount of time, more than 30 planets had been destroyed. At this point, many different colored materials lied in his hands. Next, both of Tusi's hands moved, and all of the materials fused together. He became focused and recited some chants that fused into the material. Soon after, he closed and reopened his eyes. The moment he opened them, the 8 stars on his forehead started to spin, as if they were alive. The stars shot out rays of golden light into the material. After a long time, a square pyramid that glowed with rainbow colors appeared in his hand. This square pyramid gave of a look of majesty. A feeling of being able to destroy the world escaped from the pyramid as countless vortexes appeared near it. Wang Lin's soul felt a sucking force when he saw the pyramid. He had a feeling of terror in his heart as he nervously looked at it. 2C looked at the pyramid and shook his head with a look of pity on his face. He grabbed it and examined it some more before throwing it at a planet. It disappeared into the planet. 2C sighed. His body moved, and after a few steps, he disappeared into the void. Wang Lin witnessed all the events that had just occurred. 2C was clearly trying to create a device. After using more than 30 planets as resources, Wang Lin would expect the square pyramid to be some sort of legendary artifact, but he would never have expected 2C to only look at it for a bit, then throw it away because he wasn't satisfied with it. If such a treasure landed in the hands of a cultivator, then that person would be almost unstoppable. He stared at the planet that the square pyramid went to and secretly sighed. As for the process of refining the treasure, Wang Lin saw it all. Although he didn't know what materials or chant 2C used, Wang Lin believed that once he absorbed all of the blue ice crystals, he would know it all. After ancient god 2C left, he clearly felt his soul begin to disappear from that place. Soon, all of his soul disappeared from there. At the place that held the inheritance of knowledge, besides the 93 blue ice crystals, there was a blue cocoon. Soon, countless cracks appeared on the cocoon. Countless colorful lights peered out from the cracks. As more and more cracks appeared, the colorful light became more and more intense. Soon, with a cracking sound, the cocoon broke open. A half-transparent figure that emitted colorful light appeared from the cocoon. The person was Wang Lin. Wang Lin opened his eyes and looked down at his body. His eyes revealed a questioning look. He could clearly feel that after absorbing the blue ice crystal, not only did he gain more memories, but his soul went from an almost completely illusionary state to this half-transparent state. After contemplating a little, Wang Lin tried to move his soul, but his current body immediately collapsed and spread out into the surroundings. Wang Lin moved his soul again, and once again it fused back into that half-transparent state. He pondered silently for a while, then waved his right hand and formed a mirror made of the ice crystal. After glancing at the mirror, Wang Li suddenly quivered. He stared at the mirror, unable to utter a word. From the mirror, he could see the half-transparent figure. Although it was half-transparent, he could still see its features. It contained a very common-looking face. Wang Lin just stared at the mirror. His face revealed a very complicated emotion. He thought that one day, he would be able to regain his old body. He had forgotten how many years it had been since his body was destroyed by Teng Huayuan, but he had never forgotten about the body that was given to him by his parents. Every time he remembered it, his heart would fill with hate for Teng Huayuan. After a long time, Wang Lin sighed, and his mood was calm again. He moved his soul and quickly surrounded another blue ice crystal. The extreme pain from before appeared again. This time, Wang Lin was prepared, and he remained calm. All the information bursted into his soul and was absorbed by him. Shortly after, his soul became unable to withstand it any longer. It collapsed and soon surrounded him in that oval cocoon again. The empty space, filled with countless specks of light, appeared again. This time, he observed the ancient god refining a pill. It was made using the Ling Q of countless planets. This pill, in Wang Lin's eyes, was extremely rough. It looked like a ball of mud that was releasing a horrifying amount of Ling QE, but no matter how you looked at it, it didn't look like a pill. After 2C took the pill, the cracks in his body became much thinner, and between the cracks appeared countless patterns that emitted a very mysterious atmosphere. With the ancient god-S movement, the patterns created an illusion and looked as if they were alive. When the giant cocoon broke again, Wang Lin's body became a bit more solid. Time slowly passed. Wang Lin continued to absorb 2C's inheritance of knowledge. After absorbing one ice crystal, he would move on to the next. When the 34th ice crystal was absorbed by him, his soul was solid. No matter how hard you looked, you couldn't find any difference between his soul now and a real body. As for his hair, it was still white like before. Wang Lin took a deep breath and began to carefully examine his body. No matter if it was his sense of touch, smell, sound, or taste, all were the same as a real body. Gradually, Wang Lin's heart became filled with more and more doubt. All he did was absorb the ancient god's inheritance of knowledge. Why would his soul turn into a body? This body, aside from not having a Jie Dan, was exactly the same as a normal body. Wang Lin pondered a little and cut his left arm. From the wound, red blood dripped out. While staring at the blood, Wang Lin finally understood that he had really recovered his old body. He closed his eyes, and after scanning his soul, he found that there were no changes to it. Within his soul, the circle of bright lightning around the core of the soul devourer spun, and every rotation sent out waves that expanded his soul. Within his soul, no matter if it was the heaven-revolting bead or the G realm, everything remained the same. After he carefully explored his body, he opened his eyes and tightened his fists. Wang Lin didn't need any time at all to get familiar with the body his soul formed, since this was, after all, his original body. When he moved his fist, Wang Lin's heart was filled with joy. He raised his head, and his eyes became cold. He said, "Teng Huayuan, you destroyed my body back then, but now I have managed to reform it. Once I reach Yuanying stage with this body, I'll kill my way to the country of Zhao and kill the entire Teng family. This hate can only be calmed by the blood of your entire family. Only the souls of the entire Teng family can calm my heart." Wang Lin's eyes lit up. When he first arrived in this place, he didn't expect there to be 94 ice crystals. That disrupted his original plan. He originally planned to absorb the inheritance of knowledge and find the ink stone needed to make the restriction flag. Then return to his body and leave the land of the ancient god that he had been trapped in for so many years. If everything went according to his plan, then this time, Wang Lin's harvest would have been great. Not only did he manage to learn the art of restrictions, he also learned the method for making the restriction flag and managed to obtain Hunchback Mang's and Ancient Emperor's bags of holding. Of course, there was still that beast trap and the 20 top-quality spirit stones. If you include the 10 instruments as well, then he really did have a bountiful harvest. In addition, there was still the more valuable inheritance of knowledge. But after finding out that there were 94 ice crystals, Wang Lin became much more cautious. If he could enter this place, then others could as well. But after waiting for a long time, no one else came. It was clear that some change happened. More importantly, the place where Wang Lin hid his body was also where all of his bags of holding were. But that place was between the rifts, so he was not too worried about its safety. But if his body was without a soul for too long, then there might be complications. However, since Wang Lin formed a new body, he finally relaxed a bit. As time passed, Wang Lin's speed in fusing with the ice crystals became slower and slower. On the 57th ice crystal after Wang Lin broke out a cocoon, there was a faint star between his eyebrows. Wang Lin quietly sat crossed-legged within the cocoon. He closed his eyes. After a very long time, he opened them again. They exuded a mysterious light. Although the Wang Lin now looked like that youth from the country of Zhao all those years ago, the atmosphere he emitted now was completely different. The him now, with his white hair flowing, gave off the feeling of an extremely dangerous stranger, just like a savage beast that caused people's hearts to grow cold. The star on his forehead appeared between his eyebrows after the 57th ice crystal. The moment the star appeared, it felt as if mind was struck by lightning and became clear. He clearly remembered that on the ancient god Xianxia's forehead, there were 8 stars. He remembered that no matter it was refining a treasure or a pill, they all required some mysterious power from the stars. But the stars on Xianxia's forehead were red, and the star on his head was only a faint outline. In fact, if you didn't look at it carefully, you couldn't even see it. Even though he didn't know how to get the rest of the stars on his forehead, Wang Lin believed that once he absorbed all of the ice crystals, he would have an understanding of it. Although Wang Lin didn't know much about the star, after absorbing more than 50 ice crystals, Wang Lin gained an understanding on why his body reformed. The ancient gods focused on refining the body. Every ancient god used all of the Ling Qi they absorbed to refine their body. As a result, even if they were ancient gods, their bodies would reach a limit and stop becoming stronger. At that point, there was a need to expand the body, otherwise, one's cultivation would stop. Only by expanding the body would one be able to reach higher cultivation. It could be said that the larger the ancient god's body, the more Ling Qi could be stored in it. Once the limit was reached, the ancient god's body would go through reconstruction. This could be considered reaching a new stage of cultivation. Each ancient god would experience countless body expansions, and also countless body reconstructions. The more they experienced it, the stronger they became. And after each reconstruction, the ancient god's soul also increased in size. For the ancient gods, there were no stages of cultivation, there was only the soul and the body's strength. The inheritance of knowledge that Wang Lin had absorbed contained the lifetime memories of 2C. Even though 2C died in an early adult stage while practicing the flowing ink transformation divine technique, he had experienced body reconstruction 8 times. Each body reconstruction was an unforgettable experience for the ancient gods. After all, each reconstruction was a step to becoming stronger. Before, Wang Lin only absorbed a small part of the inheritance, so there wasn't much change. After entering this area, he completely absorbed one of the 94 ice crystals, and the ability of reconstruction automatically started. Therefore, Wang Lin's body began to reform, using his soul as the core and his memory as the template. To Wang Lin, undergoing the process of body reconstruction wasn't anything special. In fact, if anyone else received the inheritance, they would go through the same process. But when Wang Lin's body reformed, it allowed him to recover his original body. Although this body looked very normal, compared to ordinary cultivators, it was much stronger. If Wang Lin could experience 8 reconstructions, then his body would be like the ancient god's. After understanding all of this, Wang Lin came to a wild conclusion. Maybe the 8 stars on 2C's forehead had to do with his 8 reconstructions. If that was really the case, then that would explain why there was a star on his forehead. After all, his body had reconstructed once. But according to Wang Lin's analysis, his body's reconstruction wasn't complete. Otherwise, why would the star on his forehead still have no color and remain so faint? This was all Wang Lin's speculation, because he didn't have that memory yet, but he believed that he would soon have the answer. After absorbing 57 ice crystals, the broken pieces of chants, techniques, and memories were starting to become complete. This caused his soul to become very chaotic. Sometimes, Wang Lin's soul would become confused. Sometimes he would believe he was 2C, and sometimes he would remember that he was Wang Lin. This chaotic feeling caused his heart to feel a strong sense of doom. Despite 2C being dead, and there not being any chance of being possessed, Wang Lin believed that if he absorbed all of the inheritance of knowledge, if one of them wasn't properly handled, he would really think that he was 2C and forget his real identity. Because of this, Wang Lin had slowed the speed at which he absorbed the inheritance. Only after he had completely absorbed one ice crystal would he move on to the next. As a result, the chaotic feeling in his soul lessened by a lot. Although it still happened sometimes, Wang Lin was able to maintain his identity. Although the speed had gone down, the key was to be steady. Wang Lin wasn't in a rush and slowly absorbed the inheritance. Time flew by. Wang Lin had completely lost his sense of time in this place. After every time he came out of his cocoon, his soul would be in a state of chaos for an unknown amount of time. Wishing for the like button for the video, hoping to charge through the trending charts for the video this month. In the distance, the cultivators coming from the palace all stopped due to this change. Their faces turned pale and were filled with fear. Their gazes all gathered on Wang Lin. Black snow may have never fallen on the imperial palace, the black-haired Wang Lin said as he waved his right hand. The darkness in the sky covered the palace and black snow fell inside and outside the palace. As the snow fell, it seemed to sing the song of time. The huge palace began to rapidly decay. However, at this moment, golden light came from the celestial ancestor statue in the distance. The golden light rippled and shrouded the palace. This golden light was the strongest formation of the palace, and it wouldn't allow the palace to be destroyed. In the golden light, there seemed to be someone sitting on the head of the celestial ancestor statue. He wore white, and he looked at Wang Lin from far away. Wang Lin, the person in white, was the imperial teacher. He revealed a smile as he stood up and took a step toward Wang Lin. With one step, the entire palace seemed to overlap with another space. This allowed the imperial teacher to arrive on top of the temple 10,000 feet from Wang Lin. As he stood there, the wind caused his clothes to flutter. "I have waited for you for a long time. You finally came." Wang Lin looked up at the imperial teacher on the temple. In the sky, the battle between the Celestial Emperor and Grand Empyrean Gemini raged. It would be difficult for a victor to be decided, but Grand Empyrean Gemini could keep the Celestial Emperor busy so he couldn't act against Wang Lin. Aside from the Celestial Emperor, The palace only had the imperial teacher, who had strange cultivation. Wang Lin silently pondered and stomped with his right foot. Thunderous rumbles echoed, and the surrounding cultivators all chose to retreat. They were not like the ancient clan, where there were no sects. There was only the 3 countries and ancient clan temple. Almost all the ancient clan members had a crazed sense of loyalty to the royal family. In the celestial clan, the royal family was more of a symbol. The true power was controlled by the Grand Empyreans and the many sects. At this moment, when they faced Wang Lin, who terrified them, they didn't hesitate to retreat. When Wang Lin's foot landed, the earth collapsed. Cracks spread out like crazy with his body as the center. The cracks rapidly rushed toward the temple the imperial teacher was standing on. Strands of cracks spread out like dragons. When they closed in, the imperial teacher smiled and waved his right hand. Everything that exists can become null as he waved his right hand. The cracks on the ground healed like a wound and disappeared without a trace. Wang Lin looked up at the imperial teacher and slowly said, "The person I killed at the street was not you. The person you killed was me, but was also not me." As the imperial teacher smiled, he closed his right hand and slowly opened it. A small person made of white light appeared and kowtowed toward the imperial teacher. "You went to the Great Soul sect and learned his spell. The Soul Eye Dao and Dao Eye Soul look the same, but they are actually different." The imperial teacher waved his right hand and the little person flew out. It immediately grew into the size of a normal person and rushed toward Wang Lin. This figure moved very fast and merged with the world. However, when it closed in on Wang Lin suddenly raised his right hand just like back at the street. Ripples echoed as he choked the white figure and crushed it. "Why?" Wang Lin closed his eyes and opened them after several breaths. "You are the first person to come out of a cave world. Whether it is the celestial clan or the ancient clan, there are countless cave worlds. At the beginning, no one had the spell to open up their own cave world on the immortal astral continent. Including the celestial and ancient ancestors, the spell to create your own world was a spell unique to my clan. After my clan followed the celestial ancestor, we spread this spell to allow any qualified sect to create their own cave world. Over the countless years, the countless cave worlds provided large amounts of Joss flames for my clan. Joss flames were useful for others, but they were most useful for my clan. As long as one absorbed my clan's Joss flames, they would become an outer member of my clan. And if there were no more Joss flames, they would die. Joss flames are poison, but also beneficial. This is not too big of a secret, perhaps you also know. However, you came through the void not through reincarnation, but by walking out with your body from the cave world. This is impossible. It has never happened in the history of my clan." The imperial teacher became excited as he stared at Wang Lin. The excitement in his eyes became stronger and stronger. "It can be said that you don't belong to the immortal astral continent. It can also be said that you were created by my clan on the immortal astral continent." As the imperial teacher spoke, his right hand formed a seal, and he waved. The palace became twisted as if the space itself was changing. The sky dissipated and the earth changed. Even the palace disappeared instantly. Wang Lin clearly noticed that his position hadn't changed, but the space had transformed. Someone had obviously used a powerful spell to open up a similar space. They were clearly in the palace, but this was actually another world. This was a large temple with large pillars supporting it. Each pillar has 9 balls of fire around it, lighting up the temple. Countless pillars and countless balls of fire. Each balls of fire contained a face with closed eyes that appeared and disappeared. In the distance, there was a mountain-shaped altar. That was where the imperial teacher was. His body didn't move, as if he was in a different space. That was the imperial palace. There was a large blood-red pool before the altar, and there was a person sitting there. He was Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. His eyes were closed and his expression fierce, as if he was enduring intense pain. His veins are swollen, and there was a sense of age on his face. There were 9 pillars around this pool, and they were connected together with a brown chain that floated above the altar. There was a person chained at the center of these 9 chains, a man wearing a flowered shirt. He was in a coma and had the 9 chains going through him. This person is the madman. When the celestial clan invited my family to arrange the palace, they opened up this place. Everything here is connected to the palace. The imperial teacher smiled at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's gaze looked at the comatose madman and, after pondering a bit, he spoke. "You and the celestial emperor used various methods to force me here. What for? Do you want the power of the celestial ancestor? The imperial teacher looked at Wang Lin, and his eyes revealed a strange light. The celestial ancestor has infinite power. If you promise me one thing, I can help you inherit the power of the celestial ancestor. You will become the strongest person on the immortal astral continent. Wang Lin's expression was still cold, and he wasn't moved at all. He only coldly stared at the imperial teacher. The celestial emperor has prepared for many years to complete the return to the ancestral origin spell. Once it is successful, it will allow someone to have the celestial ancestor's cultivation level and become the second celestial ancestor. I can help you obtain this cultivation level without the celestial emperor knowing. The imperial teacher licked his lips and looked at Wang Lin. You have the qualifications. You came from a cave world that provides joss flames from my clan. You can leave the ancestral city. More accurately, you can leave the palace. Wang Lin's words interrupted the imperial teacher. After he spoke, the imperial teacher's expression suddenly changed and he stopped speaking. His gaze became cold as he stared at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression remained the same as he met his gaze. After a long time, the imperial teacher began to laugh. That is correct. The celestial ancestor is strong, very strong. My clan is forced to serve him, and a vast majority of the joss flames are refined by the bodies of the members of my clan before being given to the celestial ancestor. He left a seal that will be inherited for generations in my clan. Not only can the people of my clan not leave the ancestral city, we even have to be cautious without words. Every generation of celestial emperor can control the life and death of my clan. Once someone takes the risk of leaving, they die. The old ancestor of the great soul sect was a genius of my clan, but after he left, he still found it difficult to avoid death. Therefore, my clan must be loyal to every celestial emperor. I want to change this, and now I have the chance to do so. When I first learned that you came from a cave world, the celestial emperor wanted to kill you, but I understand Lian Daojin. He is always suspicious of others and extremely cold, so I took the initiative to say that you will be a big problem and must be killed. Sure enough, the moment I said it, he had doubts, so when you arrived in the celestial clan, he didn't act. However, you grew too fast beyond his expectations, but he had other plans. He wanted to use your power to complete Ming Dao. The person he chose for the return to the ancestral origin spell is Ming Dao, and the person I chose is you, Wang Lin. Judy is a great threat for the celestial emperor, so he doesn't wish to act personally and attract Judy's suspicion. This is why he invited you during the title ceremony and set the trap at the street, but when your slaughter descended, it shocked him. Then he relied on Dao Fei's memory to finally successfully lure you here. The reason I wanted you to come here is precisely because only when there is another Grand Empyrean battling him can I say these things without him knowing. The white-haired imperial teacher's eyes lit up as he spoke to Wang Lin. The video schedule for first is up, and I ask all friends not to be stingy. Remember to share Leo. If you're capable friends, please be prepared to support Leo with a like. Is it me or Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao, or should I say, the real winner would be the Celestial Emperor or the Imperial Teacher? Wang Lin remained calm as he silently pondered. His emotions didn't change at all due to the Imperial Teacher's words. He looked at the Imperial Teacher above the altar. His words were filled with truth and lies. However, Wang Lin was certain the so-called inheritance would not be so simple. Wang Lin looked at the Imperial Teacher and slowly said, I wonder, how do you want me to cooperate so I can obtain the Celestial Ancestor's cultivation? Also, the Celestial Ancestor is rumored to have gone missing. It is unknown if he is dead or alive. How well can this inheritance be carried out? This matter is complicated, but the Celestial Emperor has prepared extensively already. He found Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao, who without the Celestial Ancestor bloodline, could already become the strongest Ascendant Empyrean after you. If he obtains the Celestial Ancestor bloodline, his cultivation level will increase countless folds. His hatred towards you will turn into an obsession to surpass you. This obsession can increase his vitality greatly and increase his chance of surviving the pain by 40%, so he can successfully force out all his own bloodline and be transformed into the Celestial Ancestor's bloodline. At that time, he will become the second-generation Celestial Ancestor, and the Celestial Emperor has spent many years scheming with Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. I still don't know what the Celestial Emperor did to make him so confident he could control the powerful Ming Dao once he succeeds the return to the ancestral origin spell. I attempted to divinate it, but it was a complete blur. I managed to find some clues, and it should be something similar to possession and puppet. The key is this blood pool. The Imperial teacher pointed at the pool before the altar. This thing is extremely difficult to obtain. A few generations of Celestial Emperors gathered enough blood to barely increase the success rate of the return to the ancestral origin spell. If you agree, I'll preside over this and transfer the legacy to you instead. Once you obtain this power, you will become the #1 in the Celestial Clan, an existence beyond Grand Empyreans. At that time, you can save Lian Daofei with just one word. The Imperial teacher began to speak even faster. Wang Lin calmly said, "What demands do you have?" "I only have one condition. Once you obtain the Celestial Ancestor's inheritance and become the second Celestial Ancestor, you can replace the Celestial Ancestor to unseal my clan. Let my clan go free." As the Imperial teacher stared at Wang Lin, his eyes revealed a strange light. "Then my clan will choose to leave the immortal astral continent and go back to our hometown. As for you, you will become the most powerful person in the Celestial Clan. You will be able to enjoy endless power while reproducing the glory of the Celestial Ancestor. If you don't believe me, I can make an oath. If I violate this contract, let me be destroyed." As the Imperial teacher spoke, his last sentence appeared out of thin air and light condensed to form a complex seal. The seal floated there and then disappeared. The Imperial teacher quickly said, "This is an oath, and the law of the immortal astral continent is the witness. With your cultivation level, you can naturally sense if this oath is real or fake." Wang Lin silently pondered. Time passed breath and breath. For the first time, the Imperial teacher became anxious. "Wang Lin, I have no malice, and everything I have said is true. There is no feud between us, so I won't harm you. I just want to fight for a free future for my clan. Can you please help me? No one wants to be a slave for their whole life, and even all your future generations will be slaves to another. Can you imagine that? My children had their fates decided the moment they were born. This kind of thing has continued for countless years. We have to struggle, we want to break free. But my clan has no strength to resist. Wang Lin, you are my clan's only hope. Help my clan once. Help my clan once." The Imperial teacher looked sincere and was filled with a deep sense of sorrow. He clasped his hands and bowed deeply at Wang Lin. However, Wang Lin's expression was still cold and hadn't changed at all, revealing ruthlessness. The black-haired him represented slaughter and destruction, so even if this matter was several times more sad, he wouldn't care. Not to mention, he wouldn't casually believe those words. Wang Lin looked at the struggling ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao in the pool and felt the madness coming from his body. Has he lost his mind? His mind has already been erased by the Celestial Emperor. The only thing that remains is his hatred and killing intent toward you. The Imperial teacher nodded. From Wang Lin's view, this hatred wasn't that deep, but considering the Dao ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao cultivated, he slightly understood. Time slowly passed. The Imperial teacher bitterly waited for a while. He looked at Wang Lin's indifferent expression and couldn't help but let out a sigh. He clenched his teeth and spoke once more. "If fellow cultivator Wang agrees with me, I can give you all the Joss flames provided by all the cave worlds on the immortal astral continent. If fellow cultivator Wang absorbs it all, there will be many benefits. Regardless of cultivation level, spells, or lifespan, you will undergo a metamorphosis. After a long time, there is a chance you will reach a realm of void and destruction. This level is enough for one to stand at the top." After the Imperial teacher finished speaking, his right hand reached toward his forehead. A fist-sized black crystal slowly appeared. It gave off no light, but a powerful Joss flame aura spread out. This item is the core of all the Joss flames provided by all the cave worlds on the immortal astral continent. With this, the entire continent will be constantly providing you with Joss flames. The celestial ancestor was born from the void, and unlike my family, he couldn't absorb it himself, so it's necessary for my clan to transform it first. There are many people in this world who absorb Joss flames, but because it's not pure, they become a seed for Joss flames for my clan once they absorb it. But you are different. You were born in a Joss flame cave world. For you don't need my clan to transform it. Your soul and body can directly absorb it. The Imperial Teacher's eyes revealed a decisive gaze, and he waved his hand. The black crystal flew toward Wang Lin. The incoming crystal seemed to meet resistance before Wang Lin and floated before him. After taking out the crystal, the Imperial Teacher looked older, as if he was decaying. This item is my clan's life crystal. After losing it, I want life for much longer. I give this to you in hopes that you will believe me. Help my clan gain freedom and leave here, return home. The Imperial Teacher's voice felt ancient. Wang Lin pondered a bit, then he waved his right hand and immediately put the crystal away. He looked up at the Imperial Teacher and nodded. I don't understand the immortal astral oath. I only know blood oath. As Wang Lin spoke, he raised his hand and bit his finger. A drop of blood flew out, and this blood contained Wang Lin's aura. This aura was very powerful, and if it exploded into a blood mist, the aura it would give off would make it difficult for others to tell if this aura was the real Wang Lin or not. If what you say is true, then I can help you once. Wang Lin words entered the drop of blood, and it flashed. Wang Lin flicked the drop, and it stopped before the Imperial Teacher. The Imperial Teacher became excited as he looked at the drop of blood before him. He pointed at the pool Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao was in and spoke. Many thanks, fellow cultivator. At this moment, time is of the essence. I ask fellow cultivator to enter the pool so I can cast the spell while the Celestial Emperor is occupied, and Ming Dao hasn't awakened yet to transfer the inheritance to you. This matter will be painful and will require your blood to be changed so that you have the blood of the celestial ancestor. I ask fellow cultivator not to resist, as once you resist, all the previous efforts will be wasted. Fellow cultivator Wang, the Imperial Teacher's expression was serious. He looked at Wang Lin with deep gratitude. He clasped his hands and bowed at Wang Lin for the second time. My clan will remember fellow cultivator's grace. I thank fellow cultivator on the behalf of all my clan members on the immortal astral continent. Wang Lin's expression was cold as he slowly walked toward the pool. When he got near the pool, he suddenly looked up at the Imperial Teacher. The Imperial Teacher was still filled with gratitude, and Wang Lin could see the death aura around him. Like he had said, after losing the crystal, he didn't have much time left. Wang Lin slowly said, I must first rescue Lian Daofei. The Imperial Teacher revealed a bitter smile as he looked at Lian Daofei, who was locked by the 9 chains. He shook his head and let out a sigh. Fellow cultivator Wang, this old man doesn't want to deceive you. The chains on Lian Daofei's body were placed by the Celestial Emperor, so I can remove them. Even though he is battling against Grand Empyrean Gemini, once it's touched, he will immediately notice, so this old man really can't open it. But once you obtain the power of the celestial ancestor, everything will be resolved. Believe me once, fellow cultivator, believe me once. I promise you this with the lives and the future of my entire clan. Believe me? The Imperial Teacher was very sincere. He had paid with his life only for Wang Lin to believe him once. Wang Lin looked at the Imperial Teacher and silently pondered for a moment before he nodded. He lifted his feet and stepped into the blood-like pool of water. However, just as his right foot was about to touch the pool, his right foot trembled slightly. This action was very light, and the ripple from his foot touching the pool masked it so outsiders couldn't detect it. A strand of slaughter aura spread out from his right foot. The moment this aura appeared, it shot directly Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao, who had his eyes closed, and immediately drilled into his body. The Imperial Teacher was very excited. When he saw Wang Lin step into the pool, he raised his hand to form a seal and used the last of his life force to use the secret spell. However, at this moment, the entire palace suddenly turned cold. Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao suddenly opened his eyes and his feelings of confusion were turned into madness. The coldness was coming from his body, and the moment he opened his eyes, the pool of water instantly turned to ice. The VIDEO has reached first place in the ranking but still can't maintain the top position. Urgently wishing for all friends to push a round of VIDEO, Leo is extremely grateful. Roar. Ming Dao let out a roar, and his body stood up inside the frozen water, releasing cracking sounds. His hair grew rapidly until it was longer than his body and laid on the frozen body. His hair moved as he stared at Wang Lin with monstrous killing intent. This sudden change startled the Imperial Teacher, but before he could speak, Wang Lin's right foot rose up the moment Ming Dao awakened, and the pool froze. His eyes were filled with killing intent and coldness as he looked at the Imperial teacher. "You are indeed deceiving me." This just as the Imperial teacher was about to explain, Ming Dao's roar echoed, causing the entire place to tremble. He rushed at Wang Lin like a fierce beast. "If you don't give me a reasonable explanation, then our agreement from before is over." Wang Lin's expression was extremely gloomy and angry. Facing Ming Dao, who was charging at him, he waved his right hand. With this wave, his slaughter and destructive power appeared to form a black cloud that flew toward Ming Dao. As it closed in, Ming Dao let out a roar. His eyes were filled with madness. He raised his left hand and 9 strands of green gas suddenly appeared around his 5 fingers. After forming 9 circles, they expanded and flew toward the black cloud. Thunderous rumbles echoed, and the green gas erupted with extremely pure fire essence power. Each ring began to burn, shaking the black cloud. The Imperial teacher stared at this and began to ponder. He immediately guessed that this was related to Wang Lin, but he wasn't too sure. Perhaps Wang Lin's arrival had stimulated Ming Dao to awakening early. As he pondered, he raised his right hand and a small person made of white light appeared. Just as it was about to divinate, Ming Dao was knocked back toward the Imperial teacher as the smoke rings and the black cloud collided. Wang Lin also retreated and suddenly looked up after retreating several steps. He stared at Ming Dao, who had been knocked toward the Imperial teacher. Killing intent appeared in his eyes as he stepped forward and the black robe around him erupted into a black cloud. Wang Lin became one with the black cloud and rushed toward the madman, who was trapped by the 9 chains. "You kill him or subdue him, then our deal can continue." As Wang Lin's voice echoed, the blood that contained Wang Lin's blood oath erupted into a blood mist. This blood mist surrounded the altar and the Imperial teacher. When the blood suddenly erupted, it caused the Imperial teacher to be shrouded by Wang Lin's aura. This aura was very powerful, and would make it difficult for someone who could only detect auras to figure out the difference between real and fake. Wang Lin was currently the black-haired version of himself and was hiding inside the fog, so his aura was completely hidden. Ming Dao, who had lost his mind, immediately felt the aura from the blood mist around the Imperial teacher. The aura he hated to the bones. Without hesitation, he immediately changed his target. His eyes were bloodshot as he charged toward the Imperial teacher. Ming Dao arrived with a sharp roar and interrupted the Imperial teacher's divination. He looked at the blood mist around him and no longer needed to divinate as he had already guessed the answer. There was a flash of viciousness in his eyes as the little person in his palm flew out. It immediately turned into the size of a real person and pointed at Ming Dao. Till the end, Wang Lin still didn't believe the Imperial teacher's words. The reason he had even talked with the Imperial teacher was to find a way to save the madman. The Imperial teacher's power was very strange, and if he tried to stop Wang Lin, then Wang Lin would find it difficult to find spare power to save the madman. Therefore, he first got the information that Ming Dao had lost his mind, and then condensed his own aura before the Imperial teacher in the guise of a blood oath. He wasn't worried the Imperial teacher would have doubts, because, after all, it was normal for the blood oath to contain the user's own aura. As time passed, the Imperial teacher revealed his anxiousness several times. Wang Lin had used the blood oath as an excuse to place it near the Imperial teacher. Then he agreed without giving the Imperial teacher time to think. The Imperial teacher was anxious, and much time had passed. Once Wang Lin agreed, the Imperial teacher didn't suspect the blood, and he didn't bother to divinate it. His attention was focused on transferring the power to Wang Lin. Wang Lin calmly executed this plan, and once Ming Dao was awakened by him, all of this took place. What celestial ancestor inheritance, what saving the Imperial teacher's clan. Wang Lin had no interest in any of this. He was currently the black-haired Wang Lin, who represented slaughter and destruction. How could he care about such things? The only thing that remained was the obsession that remained when he turned into the black-haired version. Save the madman. He turned into black fog, and while the Imperial teacher and Ming Dao were fighting, he charged toward the chains above. As soon as the black fog shrouded the chain and he was going to save the madman, a golden light came from the madman's body. This golden light was the same as the golden light from the celestial ancestor statue in the palace. Under this golden light, a power that made his heart tremble, one that not even his slaughter could resist, spread out. The moment the golden light touched the black fog began to dissipate. The black fog was turned into threads and was forced out of Wang Lin's body. Under the golden light, the black-haired Wang Lin was surrounded by black gas. The moment the black gas appeared, it dissipated with a sizzle. A sharp pain came from Wang Lin's soul and shrouded his body, making it so he could not close in on the madman. He suddenly retreated, but under the golden light, his hair rapidly changed. After retreating a few hundred feet, his black hair had dissipated and was replaced by white hair. This power forced Wang Lin to turn back to his white-haired form from his slaughter and destruction. Even though his hair was no longer black, Wang Lin was still being rejected by the golden light. The blast caused him to cough out blood and his pupils to shrink. He stared at the chains around the madman with shock in his eyes. This the power of the celestial ancestor's bloodline? Did the celestial emperor choose ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao or his little brother Dao Fei? As Wang Lin retreated, the imperial teacher pointed at ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao, causing Ming Dao's body to be pushed back. However, the retreating ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao let out a roar and his skin rapidly decayed. Large amounts of wounds appeared on his body and golden light shined out from those wounds as they decayed. This caused his body to be shrouded in a golden light, no weaker than the one that had turned Wang Lin's hair white. The appearance of this force caused Wang Lin to suspect his previous speculations. The appearance of this golden light made him uncertain if the celestial emperor had chosen the madman or Ming Dao. Wang Lin, you moved the chain, so the celestial emperor already knows he could come at any time. Quickly, come help me suppress Ming Dao so I can transfer his power to you. The imperial teacher's face was pale. He had lost the crystal and therefore didn't have much time left. His words were anxious, and at this moment, he didn't care about Wang Lin's scheme from before. Ming Dao's body was covered in golden light, but the decay did not stop. It only intensified as the golden light became stronger. Pieces of rotten flesh fell off, and he looked like he was in endless pain. His eyes were blurry, filled with only madness as he let out a roar and charged at Wang Lin. He didn't use any spell as he closed in. The golden light coming from his body was the best spell and treasure. Wang Lin felt like a sun was rushing toward him to completely destroy him. Wang Lin's expression changed, and he retreated, activating the soul armor as he did so. He was now using his full power. Sundered Night appeared in his left hand and Ancient Dao No Celestials appeared in his right. These were his most powerful spells, and he bombarded Ming Dao with them. At the same time, the imperial teacher also jumped into the air and left the altar for the first time. He waved his right hand, and 9 white figures appeared. The 9 figures turned into 9 fingers and rushed toward Ming Dao. As the rumble echoed, before Wang Lin could see the result, a muffled, angry roar came from outside the palace. The entire palace shook violently, and the top of the palace collapsed. A large golden palm seemed to have broken through space, descending on them. Xianxia, you dare to betray this emperor? The golden palm contained the destructive force of a grand Empyrean. After it appeared, it immediately absorbed the golden light from Ming Dao and the madman. When all this power gathered together, the entire palace trembled. The imperial teacher's face immediately turned pale. As the palm closed in, he immediately screamed, "Wang Lin! Into the pool!" He only had time to say this one line before he rushed into the pool below. Wang Lin hesitated, and after he gritted his teeth, he charged into the pool. When he entered the pool, the imperial teacher used some unknown spell that caused the pool of water to boil and turn into a vortex before collapsing. There was another space hidden under this palace. The sky was blood-colored like the blood pool. At this moment, a crack opened up in the sky. Then ripples echoed and Wang Lin and the imperial teacher fell through. The golden palm and Ming Dao's figure followed after them. There were 9 mysterious mountains on the ground. One of the mountains was carved into the shape of a skull. The skull looked at the sky, and it looked like the celestial ancestor. A skull turned into a mountain. Urgently wishing for all friends to push around a video, Leo is extremely grateful. Wang Lin's expression was serious as he fell from the crack in the sky. He immediately flew to the peak of one of the 9 mountains and looked up. The imperial teacher did the same thing as Wang Lin and, in a flash, appeared on top of another mountain. The giant golden palm arrived and instantly replaced everything in the sky. The sky became golden, as if it were a sea of golden fire. However, just as the golden palm arrived, the earth of this space trembled. The eyes of the mountain that looked like the head of the celestial ancestor lit up. The palm in the sky seemed to be attracted by this gaze. It melted into two strands and was quickly absorbed by the two eyes on the mountain. The golden palm print disappeared in an instant. An angry roar faintly came from the sky. It seemed to come from the celestial emperor. This roar seemed to have passed through many layers of space, but it gradually became more clear, as if the celestial emperor was desperately rushing here. However, shortly after, the angry roar stopped and was replaced by the crisp voice of two little girls. It was clear that the celestial emperor had been stopped by Grand Empyrean Gemini. The imperial teacher's face was pale, and he was panting. He seemed to have reached the end of his life, and he roared, "Wang Lin, the celestial emperor is stopped for now, but he is anxious to come here. We don't have much time left. We must first work together to subdue Ming Dao. After we subdue him, I'll use a spell to transfer his inheritance to you." Although there was no golden palm in the sky, Ming Dao's body appeared. His body was rapidly decaying, and a large amount of skin was falling off, exposing his black bones. His body was still giving off golden light that was corroding his flesh. This caused him to continue to roar in pain. Because the imperial teacher had broken open the pool, there were cracks in the sky from which large amounts of red blood dripped down like rain. The red blood fell on the 9 mountains and on the ground. It was rapidly accumulating as if it were endless. Under the blood rain, Ming Dao let out a roar and suddenly looked up. His eyes were turbid but filled with killing intent and madness. He stared at Wang Lin as he let out a roar and charged forward. He turned into a shadow and instantly closed in on the mountain Wang Lin was on, exuding his shocking pressure. Wang Lin's pupils shrank. The instant Ming Dao closed in, he took a step back. With this step, 99 aftermages appeared. As the thunderous rumbles echoed, the earth trembled. Ming Dao didn't use any spell, he just smashed headfirst into the mountain. The earth trembled, and if it was any other mountain, it would have collapsed. However, this mountain trembled violently and rocks fell, but it showed no signs of collapse. No cracks had even appeared on the mountain. Out of the 99 Wang Lins, more than 70 collapsed in Ming Dao's crazed collision. The rest fused together in the distance to turn into his original body. His expression was calm as he retreated and stared at the mountain with a strange light in his eyes. "What kind of mountain is this? What is this place?" Wang Lin asked the imperial teacher. "These are the 9 celestial mountains that are the foundation of the celestial clan. They protect the celestial clan and suppress the 72 sealed souls. This also allows each generation of celestial emperor to inherit the title of 8 Extreme. This place is the Forbidden Palace under the Imperial Palace and the real closed-door cultivation spot of the celestial ancestor." The imperial teacher answered without hesitation. "Wang Lin, attack." The imperial teacher's eyes lit up and he flew toward Ming Dao. His right hand stretched out and a small person made of white light appeared, and immediately turned into the size of a person. It charged forward with him. Ming Dao hit the mountain, causing it to tremble, and let out a roar. He didn't care about the imperial teacher, he just charged at Wang Lin once more. All nothingness continues to exist because they exist. The person made of white light before the imperial teacher walked forward and disappeared. When it reappeared, it was before Ming Dao, and it pointed at Ming Dao. When the finger landed, a large amount of ripples appeared before the void around Ming Dao. These ripples were like chains and immediately caused Ming Dao to stop. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. The golden light inside Ming Dao's body was too strong, and Wang Lin dreaded this power. Seeing the imperial teacher act, Wang Lin hesitated for a moment before he charged toward Ming Dao. As he closed in, he raised his right hand and sundered night appeared. The earth became the sea and the sky turned dark, while he became the sun. Bright light appeared, containing the powerful force of Wang Lin's faith spell. He fused with the light that could tear apart the darkness and charged at Ming Dao. At the same time, the imperial teacher, with his pale face, bit the tip of his tongue. He used his last remaining life to spit out a mouthful of blood that condensed into a blood man. The blood man let out a roar toward the sky and charged toward Ming Dao with a fierce expression. Wang Lin and the imperial teacher both attacked Ming Dao with powerful spells. Ming Dao was originally not this strong, but the golden light in his body was indestructible and could replace all spells. It was powerful enough to force anyone back and make them not dare to close in. like a fire. If a moth pounced at it, or it pounced at the moth would be burnt to ashes. As the Bloodman and Wang Lin's sundered night closed in on Ming Dao, he let out a roar at the sky. It was as if the pain had reached a peak. His body, which had mostly rotted, trembled and suddenly collapsed. This collapse was a separation of flesh and blood. It was the force of his flesh and blood exploding in all directions. The Bloodman charged forward into the explosion of Ming Dao's body. Popping sounds echoed and the Bloodman let out a miserable scream. Ming Dao's flesh penetrated through the Bloodman, and it disappeared before it even got close to Ming Dao. The power of the celestial ancestor was present inside Ming Dao's flesh and blood, making it comparable to all kinds of spells. Wang Lin's expression changed, and he rapidly retreated. The flesh and blood rapidly dissipated under sundered night, but some still penetrated through. As Wang Lin dodged, 3 pieces landed on his body. It was his chest, right leg, and left arm. Intense pain came from his body and golden light shined from those places as if it were trying to burn his body. This is happening because he awakened early and hasn't absorbed enough of the celestial ancestor's bloodline. Following his flesh and blood, his bones will collapse. If he can persist, then he will complete the return to the ancestral origin spell and his body will be reformed by the golden light. Wang Lin, we can no longer hold back. We must use our full force. We have to subdue him before he completes the spell or dies so I can transfer the power to you. The Imperial Teacher's words were weak and anxious. He raised his hand and little light people started to appear in his palm. He bit the tip of his tongue once again, and with a roar, his body rapidly decayed as if he was going to die. He spat out a mouthful of blood which then turned into a Bloodman. All the little people made of light rushed into the Bloodman. The Bloodman gave off a powerful aura and opened its eyes. There was no fierce gaze, only calmness as it charged at Ming Dao. The Imperial Teacher's body trembled, and his breathing became rough. His face was extremely pale, and death shrouded his body. Seeing the Imperial Teacher like this, Wang Lin clenched his teeth and activated the power of the Heavenly Bull's soul armor to its peak. His hair moved without any wind as his ancient Dao and celestial cultivation fused together, and he threw a punch at Ming Dao. This punch was the peak of Wang Lin's power. When he threw the punch, 99 after magnets condensed with his original body and smashed toward Ming Dao. Ming Dao's body trembled, and his body was like a skeleton. What little flesh and blood remained at this moment exploded once more. Now Ming Dao's body was all bones. The bones were completely black, but there was a fist-sized ball of golden light that gave off endless golden light inside him. This was what he inherited from the celestial ancestor. The power of the flesh and blood exploding could not stop the Bloodman formed by the life force of the Imperial Teacher, or the spell formed with Wang Lin's Heavenly Bull armor. Thunderous rumbles echoed, and Ming Dao looked like he could not bear it anymore. However, just at this moment, a roar that came from the soul echoed across the world from Ming Dao's skeleton body. I am unwilling to give up. As his divine sense echoed, 2 golden flame began to burn in his eye sockets, but an instant later, the fire showed signs of extinguishing. Cracks appeared on his bones, and they collapsed in a flash. The moment all his bones collapsed, an unimaginable shockwave spread out with him as the center. This powerful force caused Wang Lin to feel a powerful life or death crisis coming. Not far away, the Imperial Teacher's dim eyes shined with a hint of hidden excitement. He had used the last of his life, so his body collapsed like his oath. At the same time, a ray of ghostly light flew out toward Ming Dao. Embarrassed, I've been remiss in saying thank you. Thank you all for pressing the like button. Thanks to the fellow Daoists for their praise. The impact from the explosion of Ming Dao's bones rushed toward the Imperial Teacher, but most of it shot toward Wang Lin. From a distance, this storm looked like a giant mouth that was going to devour Wang Lin. The impact containing the power of the celestial ancestor made Wang Lin experience a life or death crisis. He could not dodge, and it would be difficult to resist, but Wang Lin's eyes revealed a decisive gaze. At this critical moment, he let out a roar. Heavenly Bull soul collapse. The Heavenly Bull soul armor that had been with Wang Lin for many years suddenly collapsed. The fragment turned into a vortex around Wang Lin and formed a giant Heavenly Bull around him. Thunderous rumbles echoed as Ming Dao's exploding bones collided with the Heavenly Bull. This shocking sound set off a series of echoes that shrouded the world. Wang Lin coughed out a mouthful of blood and retreated. The giant, heavenly bull around him showed signs of dissipating but was still there. Wang Lin's eyes shined as he stared ahead. He saw that at the place where Ming Dao had disappeared, there was a golden ball of light. This ball gave off a bright light, and the shadow of a figure rapidly formed. This figure was blurry but gave off a shocking pressure, and from its appearance, it seemed to be Ming Dao who was going to reform his body. Following his flesh and blood, his bones will collapse. If he can persist, then he will complete the return to the ancestral origin spell, and his body will be reformed by the golden light. The imperial teacher's earlier words echoed in Wang Lin's mind. His pupils shrank, and he was about to attack when the imperial teacher's ancient voice echoed in his mind. Wang Lin, this old man will use his life to give you the inheritance. I can sacrifice myself only to ask you to release the seal on my clan. Ming Dao has already persisted to this point, and had endured a majority of the pain for you. This will make the chances of you successfully obtaining the inheritance much greater. The imperial teacher's ghostly light charged out after his body collapsed. His calm voice that was ready for death filled Wang Lin's mind. The ghostly light rapidly closed in and collided with the shockwave created by Ming Dao's bones. The ghostly light immediately penetrated this shockwave and arrived at the golden figure that was forming. The ghostly light immediately circled around the figure 7 times and was still going. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he didn't listen to the imperial teacher's words. He clenched his right fist, and the collapsed heavenly bull soul armor condensed in his hand. In an instant, the storm around him dissipated, and the heavenly bull shadow that was about to collapse gathered inside Wang Lin's fist. Then he threw a punch. With this punch, the heavenly bull soul armor on Wang Lin's body shattered, but this punch moved extremely fast. It carried a destructive force and instantly closed in on the ghostly shadow the imperial teacher had turned into, and the golden shadow. No! Miserable divine sense message came from the ghostly light. Wang Lin's punch contained the heavenly bull soul armor. It created an impact that penetrated the 8 layers of ghostly light and collided with the golden shadow. In the celestial clan, you are not one of the people I can trust. Whether what the imperial teacher was saying was true or a lie, Wang Lin didn't care. He only knew that the imperial teacher had participated in the slaughter back on the long street. If his slaughter avatar hadn't descended, he would have without a doubt died. In his heart, he also had a speculation. Although he couldn't confirm if it was true or not, once it was confirmed, then everything before him would be a lie. The last power of the heavenly bull soul armor collided with the golden shadow. A thunderous rumble echoed across the world, and the golden shadow directly collapsed. During the condensing process, it was at its weakest, and this was a critical time where it couldn't withstand too much force. At this moment, the golden shadow collapsed, but the golden light itself was not damaged at all. It flew directly toward the sky. The ghostly light the imperial teacher had formed after he died didn't dissipate but reformed into the imperial teacher. After he appeared, his face was filled with anger and pain. His hands formed a seal, and he pointed at the earth. Celestial ancestor, it was my clan that found your head. As the imperial teacher pointed at the earth, the mountain that looked like the celestial ancestor's head trembled. Large amounts of rocks fell, and the entire mountain exploded before a dumbfounded Wang Lin. As the mountain exploded, a monstrous golden light came from the mountain. After the mountain completely collapsed, Wang Lin saw something inside. Wang Lin stopped breathing, and his body trembled. He was filled with disbelief and horror. The thing inside the mountain was a head 100 feet large with its eyes closed and a head of black hair. The moment the head appeared, a shocking pressure spread out. Under this pressure, Wang Lin felt the illusion that his body was being suppressed and his soul was going to dissipate. The head was bleeding from its orifices, but his appearance was very clear. When Wang Lin was absorbing the earth fire vein at the Heavenly Bull continent, he had seen this person seal the Heavenly Bull. At the Empyrean trial, he had seen this person as shadow. In the palace, he had seen this person as statue. He had heard about this person again and again over the past few hundred years. He had even heard this person's true name in the Dong Lin pool. He was the ancestor of the celestial ancestor, the ancestor of the entire celestial clan. The legendary strongest member of the celestial clan. He had once sealed and suppressed 72 foreign souls to form the current 72 continents. He had also created the Empyrean Trial and left behind a trial ground for the future generations. He was the celestial ancestor. He was Lian Yunju, the celestial ancestor's head. Lian Yunju's head. This head came out of the collapsed mountain and slowly rose into the air. The wound on its neck was irregular, as if someone had forcibly torn his head from his body. The blood that was dripping from his orifices was golden, but because too much time had passed, it contained faint hints of purple. There was no pain on his face, as if he was sleeping. The moment Wang Lin saw this head, his mind rumbled as if countless bolts of thunder had exploded in his brain, completely startling him. Wang Lin had many guesses about the celestial ancestor, and among the celestial clan, there were many different versions of the story of the disappearance of the celestial ancestor. Wang Lin thought that the celestial ancestor had left the immortal astral continent. He also thought that the celestial ancestor was in closed-door cultivation in some place, and he even thought that the celestial ancestor may have died. But when he personally saw the celestial ancestor's head, the shock and horror he felt was something no speculation would reduce. Who killed the celestial ancestor? Wang Lin's heart trembled. What he saw today seemed to open a door to the ancient past of the celestial clan. What happened back then? If the celestial ancestor was dead, then what about the ancient ancestor? All these thoughts instantly echoed through Wang Lin's heart. The ghostly light that was the imperial teacher let out a hiss after summoning the celestial ancestor's head. He closed his eyes, then his left hand covered his left eye, and his right eye suddenly opened. The celestial ancestor's head seemed to be affected by him. The moment he opened his right eye, the celestial ancestor's head also opened its right eye. Its right eye was like a hole. There was no color. The moment he opened his right eye, the rapidly ascending golden light stopped and charged direction toward the celestial ancestor's head. It instantly disappeared into the right eye. Shortly after, the imperial teacher formed by the ghostly light angrily looked at Wang Lin and then pointed at him. He chanted a complex spell that Wang Lin could not hear clearly. Wang Lin's face instantly turned pale, and he retreated without hesitation. However, as the imperial teacher pointed, a monstrous golden light came from the celestial ancestor's right eye. Wang Lin immediately felt a great force drawing him in, and he was involuntarily pulled into the right eye of the celestial ancestor. The moment he was sucked into the right eye of the celestial ancestor, the imperial teacher was surrounded by 9 ghostly lights and rushed into the celestial ancestor's right eye. After Wang Lin, you didn't listen to this old man's advice and interfered with my plan. Now the plan that had a 90% success rate is reduced to only 30%. You deserve to die. This old man really intended to let you have the celestial ancestor's inheritance. I would have used its power to suppress your mind so that I could possess your mind after you obtained it. However, after I completed my plan, I would be considered giving you a chance at survival. Once you pledged your loyalty with your soul, I would have let you become my clan's Joss Flame guardian. But now this old man has changed his mind. This is all because of your own doing. Don't blame this old man for not keeping his promise. This old man has waited for too many years and couldn't leave this place. I also couldn't find the right person to possess, but your appearance gave me the opportunity. Your body is too suitable for this old man. This old man will allow you to complete the inheritance. Once you have the celestial ancestor's cultivation, it will be the same as me obtaining the celestial ancestor's cultivation. Feebly asking, 4,000 words, does that count as a major chapter? Could it be hoping for the like button for the video and the followers too? Ancestral City's Forbidden Palace. There was a giant hole in the sky that emitted a faint light. There was a 100-foot head floating between the 8 mountains below. The head was floating in the air motionlessly. However, its right eye was open and contained a hint of light. It was still cloudy, and this light was like a vortex that rapidly rotated inside the celestial ancestor's right eye. As the light rotated, there was a vague shadow inside. This shadow was Wang Lin. The celestial ancestor's right eye was like another world. Wang Lin's eyes were closed as he floated in this dark world. This place was empty and filled with death aura. Wang Lin's hair rapidly changed between white and black hair. He didn't seem to be aware of this change, and his eyes were closed. Inside his body, golden light slowly dissipated as if it were penetrating his skin. This golden light was dim, like it could be extinguished at any moment. Wang Lin looked calm inside this golden light, as if he was asleep, and felt nothing. It was unknown how much time had passed when the golden light in Wang Lin's body became even brighter and spread outwards. Inside his body there was an inheritance and a possession, suppression and rebelling. Wang Lin looked normal on the outside, and inside his body there was a ball of golden light. This ball of light contained the power of the celestial ancestor and emitted the golden light that spread through Wang Lin's body. It was changing his flesh, blood and bones to something suitable for the existence of this golden light. The golden light was extremely overbearing. It emitted an aura that controlled all life and could make one go crazy. This aura was powerful enough that even without the imperial teacher attempting possession, this inheritance was enough to make Wang Lin turn into a madman with no consciousness. The overbearing golden light instantly destroyed any attempts Wang Lin made to resist. It completely occupied his arms and shrouded his body. However, there was a place on Wang Lin's body that could not change no matter how much the golden light invaded. That was where the ancient ancestor's soul blood was located. The ancient ancestor's soul blood was on the same level as the inheritance from the celestial ancestor, so the golden light couldn't do much. However, there wasn't much soul blood, so it couldn't spread out to resist. As a result, the two sides didn't touch each other. After the golden light suppresses his body, I can use this formation to suppress his soul and cause it to collapse. Then this old man will be able to control his body. The imperial teacher's thoughts echoed in Wang Lin's body. His body had already died and he only had a wisp of divine sense in Wang Lin's body. He was aware that taking over Wang Lin's body would not be simple, so he had used the celestial ancestor's cultivation as a lure. The purpose was to borrow the power of the celestial ancestor's inheritance to remove Wang Lin's struggle. This would allow Wang Lin's body to obtain the celestial ancestor's cultivation, and then he would occupy it without any danger. This golden light had occupied every part of Wang Lin's body, except where the soul blood was located, and the head. The golden light from Wang Lin's body was so bright that it could even be seen from the outside. One could clearly see a faint golden light coming from the celestial ancestor's right eye. As the golden light spread out, it looked like the celestial ancestor's head had gained a hint of vitality. This Wang Lin's body is extremely strange. It contains the aura of the ancient ancestor. This aura can be erased, but it can be sealed up so it doesn't interfere with my plans. The imperial teacher thought to himself. Then the golden light in Wang Lin's body gathered around the soul blood. Although it couldn't erase the soul blood, it would no longer hinder the imperial teacher's possession. I have already occupied the body, so next is the head. Once I occupy the head, then I can suppress his soul. The imperial teacher was very excited. He felt the golden light spread out in waves toward Wang Lin's neck after sealing the soul blood. Wang Lin's body trembled. Then golden light filled his head and spread out from his orifices. The golden light spread through Wang Lin's head and used its unique overbearing power to blast away any protection Wang Lin had set. It completely occupied Wang Lin's head and body. After it completely took over Wang Lin's body, the golden light shined brightly. This caused the right eye of the celestial ancestor's head to glow. Suppress the soul. The imperial teacher immediately appeared and borrowed the golden light that was suppressing Wang Lin's body to search for Wang Lin's soul. A moment later, he vaguely felt the fluctuation of a soul inside Wang Lin's body. He rushed over with excitement. All things that exist can become null because they exist. Soul, become null. As the imperial teacher's words echoed, Wang Lin's soul immediately dissipated and ceased to exist. So fragile. Not even any memories remained as should be, because the golden light from the celestial ancestor's inheritance was too strong, and Wang Lin's soul became too weak, and thus shattered with a touch. Without a soul, the body was like a dead man. But at this moment, the imperial teacher's divine sense spread out inside the golden light to control Wang Lin's body. The moment he took control of Wang Lin's body, Wang Lin, who was covered in the endless golden light, opened his eyes. The golden light from his eyes was even more dazzling. However, the current Wang Lin was not his own consciousness, but belonged to the imperial teacher. It worked. This Wang Lin was cunning to the end and always doubted this old man. He didn't cooperate at all, But now, under the power of the Celestial Ancestor-S inheritance, he was still taken over by this old man. This body is very powerful. It can refine even more Joss flame power. The Imperial Teacher was filled with excitement after taking over Wang Lin and clenched his fist. Unfortunately, the inheritance is not complete, but this is only the first step. Now for the second step. Once it succeeds, my clan will be able to rid itself of the Celestial Ancestor-S enslavement and regain freedom. I have waited far too long for this day. There is nothing in this world worth more than freedom. For my clan, even if I am destroyed, I'm willing to do anything. The Imperial Teacher's eyes were filled with excitement but also melancholy. He saw memories of the past, of all his clan members that had their fate determined the moment they were born. Wang Lin Donti blamed me. The Imperial Teacher let out a sigh, but his eyes shined brightly before decisiveness appeared in them. He didn't leave the Celestial Ancestor-S right eye. Still inside, he raised both of his hands to form a seal. The golden light his body gave off changed drastically. The golden light around his body increased 10-fold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold, 10,000-fold. It spread like wildfire, and all of the Celestial Ancestor-S cultivation inside Wang Lin's body rapidly erupted. Under this 10,000-fold golden light, Wang Lin's body was like a sun that lit up the world inside the dark right eye. This eye was now completely illuminated and no longer dark. This extremely bright light and the Celestial Ancestor-S right eye shrouded the Forbidden Palace. At this moment, the Skull's right eye shined brightly. It was a shocking sight as it looked like the skull was being resurrected. Left eye, the Imperial Teacher that occupied Wang Lin's body in the Celestial Ancestor-S right eye, formed a seal and began chanting complex spells. As the chanting echoed, the Celestial Ancestor-S left eye suddenly opened. The left eye was turbid and filled with death. It was completely different from the right eye, which was now filled with golden light and vitality. The moment the Celestial Ancestor opened his left eye, a powerful suction force shot toward the sky, toward where the hole had appeared. At the same time, crackling sounds echoed. Outside the collapsed pool, the madman that was bound by the 9 chains was being pulled down toward the collapsed blood pool by the suction force. Cracking sounds came from the chains once they were pulled to their limit and could no longer bear it. In truth, this suction force was not pulling the chains, but the madman tied up by the chains. The madman pulled the chains straight toward the collapsed blood pool. When he was only a few dozen feet away, the chains were not long enough, and a moment later, the chains that Wang Lin had found extremely difficult to destroy shattered. The remaining 6 chains only lasted for a moment before they all collapsed. After all the chains broke, the madman's body was sucked into the collapsed blood pool by the powerful suction force. He turned into a ray of golden light and flew directly toward the Celestial Ancestor-S left eye. In a flash, the madman's body closed in and was devoured by the Celestial Ancestor-S left eye like Wang Lin. Just at this moment, the madman's blurry body appeared in the left eye. His body gave off an even more powerful golden light that penetrated the left eye. As a result, both of the Celestial Ancestor-S eyes were open and gave off endless golden light as if he had really resurrected. Celestial Ancestor, speak! Release my Daowang clan seal? The Imperial Teacher excitedly screamed, but he hadn't noticed that in a hidden part of the body. Wang Lin's soul was coldly watching everything from the heaven-defying bead. With the Imperial Teacher's words, the Celestial Ancestor-S eyes shined and its closed mouth slowly opened. An ancient voice that sounded like the Imperial Teacher's voice came out. Release Daowang. The voice came out like a thunderous rumble. Leo dreams of getting a lot of likes for this video, having many followers, plenty of shares, and everyone praising his good reading and the number of words he can read. So happy. So this was his plan. He said earlier that he wanted me to inherit the Celestial Ancestor-S cultivation to become the second Celestial Ancestor to release the seal on his entire clan. I originally didn't believe it, so that's why I didn't resist once I was absorbed by the right eye. I hid my soul inside the heaven-defying bead and used a fake soul to fool him to see what kind of plan he had. So this plan was this. As Wang Lin watched all of this, he felt a hint of admiration for the Imperial Teacher, who had taken over his body. He will allow my body to gain some of the Celestial Ancestor-S inheritance, and then the madman and I will become the Celestial Ancestor-S eyes. As a result, the Celestial Ancestor-S head will have vitality and will no longer be dead. This power belonged to the celestial ancestor to begin with. Then, while inside the right eye, he will use some unknown method to make the celestial ancestor speak some words. With this method, he could perfectly release the seal on his entire clan. After all, this seal is a type of restriction and something the law of immortal astral continent recognizes. In truth, releasing this seal means deceiving the law. After all, the law is dead and follows a set of rules. With the Imperial Teacher S method, he might really succeed. Wang Lin had never thought about such a strange way to release a seal. After witnessing this, he couldn't help but admire the Imperial Teacher S wit. However, is this person really the Imperial Teacher, as Wang Lin pondered? The celestial ancestor S head was about to finish speaking. Clan all. Clan seal. The celestial ancestor S eyes shined and its mouth moved in a very lifelike manner. The voice was that of the Imperial Teacher, and just as he was about to say the last word, a shocking change occurred. A laugh echoed from the hole in the sky and a drop of golden blood fell from the hole. Just as the celestial ancestor S head was about to say the last word, the drop of golden blood landed on the celestial ancestor S head. When the blood fell, the celestial ancestor S head trembled and the golden blood spread out, covering the entire head. The golden blood covered the mouth and forced the last word back in. The Imperial Teacher, who had taken control of Wang Lin's body, let out a roar of anger. He wanted to rush out but was blocked by the golden blood. At this moment, the celestial ancestor S head changed greatly and was covered in gold, looking like a head cast from gold. The Imperial Teacher roared, "Lian Daozhen!" The celestial emperor S laughter echoed in the sky as he walked out from the hole. With one step, he landed on the head of the celestial ancestor. At the same time, Grand Empyrean Gemini chased him through the hole. The two little girls' faces were pale but extremely serious. When they came in, their pupils shrank when they saw the celestial ancestor S head below the celestial emperor. Imperial Teacher, your scheme is deep. You know I have prepared Dao Fei for a long time for the return to the ancestral origin spell. You also know that Ming Dao was just a double to help Dao Fei succeed. In your view, Ming Dao existed to resist the pain of the inheritance because his Dao was extreme pride. You thought I had lured Wang Lin here to make Ming Dao go crazy so that he could last longer due to the madness, thereby increasing the chance of Dao Fei succeeding. You let me lure Wang Lin here, and I allowed it to make you happy. Did you really think you could hide your plan from me? The celestial emperor smiled, and there was a sense of pride on his face. His eyes looked like there was nothing in this world that could escape his gaze. Back then, you wanted me to kill Wang Lin. Did you really think you understood me? That the more you want me to kill him, the more doubt I'd have. Did you think that I didn't know that Wang Lin was your most ideal target for possession? But I didn't kill him. I prepared him for you instead. The celestial emperor smiled and looked down at the celestial ancestor S head. His words were filled with confidence. This was the confidence one has when they controlled everything in their hands. Because I can control everything, I lured Wang Lin to the ancestral city and the palace as you wished. I wanted to see you make a fool of yourself. You wanted to transfer Ming Dao's inheritance to Wang Lin and seize his body, so you lured him here to become the celestial ancestor S head S right eye. You even divinated that Wang Lin would seek Grand Empyrean Gemini for help to rescue Dao Fei since they could hold me off for a while. You took the opportunity of me using Dao Fei for the return to the ancestral origin spell to turn him into the left eye. Then you used your Dao Wang Clan S special spell to make the celestial ancestor speak to release your Clan S seal. Do you think I didn't know all of this? The celestial emperor laughed. Grand Empyrean Gemini had a serious expression and didn't act recklessly. They stared at the celestial ancestor S head. A rare trace of dread appeared in the hearts of the two little girls. It wasn't just a little, but a deep sense of dread. Inside the right eye of the celestial ancestor, the Imperial Teacher that had taken over Wang Lin was deathly pale. He didn't expect the celestial emperor to have all of this in the palm of his hand. But Wang Lin, who was hiding inside the heaven-defying bead, was calm. If he wanted to, he could reoccupy his body at any time. But he didn't do so. This matter should not be that simple. This person seems to be the Imperial Teacher, but is he really the Imperial Teacher? If he isn't, then how will this matter turn out? This is very interesting. Wang Lin's soul remained hidden, and he didn't act recklessly. He was going to continue to watch. The The Celestial Emperor smiled proudly above the Celestial Ancestor's head. Imperial Teacher, I have seen through all of your plans, but how much of my plans have you seen through? Did you really think I was going to let Dao Fei obtain the Celestial Ancestor's inheritance? Did you really think I wanted this Wang Lin to come to the underground palace to stimulate Ming Dao to last a bit longer? I'll tell you today that you were wrong. All your speculations are completely wrong. No one in the world can see through my plan. You can see, Wang Lin can see, none of the Grand Empyreans can. My plan is the Celestial Ancestor's head. This head has been dead for many years and can be resurrected. It can only become a mountain to suppress the 72 souls of the Celestial clan. But it is the Celestial Ancestor's treasure, and it can also allow me to obtain the Celestial Ancestor's complete cultivation without any danger. I'll obtain it, not inherit it. However, the Celestial Ancestor died, and his body was split into pieces by someone. It is unknown who killed him, and even now, only his head has been found. A dead head. I thought for a long time and could not awaken its head, but I found a trace of hope in you. I gave you a reminder and you followed my hint to find any method possible to make the Celestial Ancestor's head speak. Very good. You've done very well. The Celestial Ancestor laughed, and he raised his right foot. He then stomped down on the Celestial Ancestor's head, and golden light surrounded the Celestial Emperor. With this, I am the strongest Grand Empyrean. Gemini, do you dare to battle this Emperor again? The Celestial Emperor looked up with self-confidence and charged at Gemini with the head below him. Grand Empyrean Gemini, the two little girls, clenched their teeth, and behind them, a purple sun appeared. The sun emitted purple light that formed two purple swords that flew toward the Celestial Emperor. The two purple swords fused together and instantly closed in. The Celestial Emperor waved his right hand, and the eyes of the Celestial Ancestor shined brightly. The monstrous golden light seemed almost solid as it looked at the purple sword-like Grand Empyrean Gemini formed. Thunderous rumbles echoed as the purple sword light suddenly collapsed when it collided with the golden light. The fragments created ripples that forced Grand Empyrean Gemini to retreat. The Celestial Emperor smiled, and as the Celestial Ancestor's head shined, his right hand reached out at the void. A golden bird appeared in his hand. He threw his hand, and the bird flapped its wings as it flew toward Grand Empyrean Gemini. Grand Empyrean Gemini retreated, and the two little girls became serious. Without hesitation, they flew up and fused with the purple sun. Their bodies became like smoke, and then turned into a very beautiful woman in her 20 seconds. This woman wore purple, and her eyes contained fury. She raised her jade-like hand, and the world became purple. Hand over Wang Lin, and I'll leave immediately. I'll no longer participate in this matter. If not, the Purple Lin sect will descend upon the ancestral city. Purple filled this forbidden palace, and even the palace above was filled with purple. Even the sky was instantly covered in this purple light. This purple light shrouded every inch of the earth until it covered the entire ancestral city. At the same time, in the sky above the ancestral city, a huge purple meteorite comparable to half the size of the ancestral city appeared in the sky. It gave off a shocking pressure as it descended on the ancestral city. Countless cracks appeared on the ground, and all the cultivators used various methods to escape the city. The Celestial Emperor's eyes narrowed as he stared at the Grand Empyrean Gemini that had fused. The golden light from the head below him became even stronger and fought against the purple light. The golden light contained power of the Celestial Ancestor, and the purple light struggled as it was forced to retreat slowly. If the Celestial Ancestor's eyes hadn't opened and I couldn't control it, I may have compromised when facing your strongest spell, the Purple Lin Faith spell, but now it is not strong enough. The Celestial Emperor was filled with confidence. But just at this moment, an ancient voice echoed inside this forbidden palace. If this old man steps in, will it be enough? As the voice echoed, Grand Empyrean Judy stepped out from the hole in the sky. Behind him, the pale-faced Empyrean Exalt High Z followed. 3,000 words in a major chapter. Wish that the like button for the video would break. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. Grand Empyrean Judy's sudden appearance didn't surprise the Celestial Emperor. He was still confident as he stood on the head of the celestial ancestor and watched Ju Di walk over. Ju Di, you indeed came. The celestial emperor smiled. Grand Empyrean Ju Di's expression was serious as he stared at the celestial emperor. His focus was on the celestial ancestor's head, and he revealed a complicated expression. The celestial ancestor's head back then, this old man followed the celestial ancestor, and now it has been countless years Lian Daojin. This old man has experienced several generations of celestial emperors, but you can be considered the most grandiose. Using the desire of the imperial teacher, you obtain the control of the celestial ancestor's head. If you had enough time to fully absorb the celestial ancestor's head into your body, then you would indeed be the #1 Grand Empyrean in my celestial clan. But now you won't have the chance. Ju Di's voice was ancient, and he stepped forward. With this step, the woman formed by the fusion of Grand Empyrean Gemini was suddenly covered in purple light, and she also walked toward the celestial emperor. The 3 Grand Empyreans began a battle inside this forbidden palace. The celestial emperor was still confident when facing Gemini and Ju Di. He raised his right hand and pressed down on the head below him. 8 Extreme Dao, Extreme Fire Dao. With this, the celestial emperor's body was covered in a golden light which then spread across the entire head. While the golden light dissipated the purple light in the sky, the head opened its mouth and released the celestial emperor's voice. 8 Extreme Dao, Extreme Fire Dao. Although these words were stuttered, they were complete. After the words came out, 9 strands of 10-foot thick green smoke appeared. They circled around the celestial emperor and the head 9 times before flying toward Ju Di and Gemini. Thunderous rumbles echoed in the forbidden palace. Wang Lin, still hidden inside his body, clearly saw everything happening outside. Wang Lin didn't act recklessly due to this sudden change. He was still waiting. He didn't think everything was so simple. Ju Di's appearance might cause some new changes. Before Wang Lin fully understood the situation, he would not come out. Thunderous rumbles echoed. Grand Empyrean Gemini's face was pale as purple light covered her body, and she retreated a few steps. Ju Di also retreated with a serious expression. What they had just faced was not the celestial emperor, but the celestial ancestor. An attack from the celestial ancestor had forced even their combine attack back. Ju Di's eyes lit up, and he said, "It is not the complete celestial ancestor's power, only about 10%. Popping sounds echoed inside his body, and his old face rapidly changed. He turned from an old man into a middle-aged man. He looked very handsome and gave off the overbearing aura of an emperor. Ju Di kept the appearance of an old man year-round, and only when his cultivation fully erupted would his appearance change like this. Speaking of which, this is the first time I've seen you like this, Ju Di, but even so, you are not my match." The celestial emperor smiled and simply sat down on the celestial ancestor's head. Both his hands pressed down on the celestial ancestor's head. "With my blood summon the ancestral spirit." The celestial emperor bit the tip of his tongue and spit out a mouthful of blood. The moment he spat out the blood, the celestial ancestor's head trembled and monstrous golden light appeared. The golden light condensed into a huge golden shadow. The shadow was wearing a royal robe. It was the celestial ancestor. The head was real, and the body was an illusion. At this moment, his eyes shined, and his right hand rose into the air. A huge golden sword appeared, and the celestial ancestor's shadow grabbed it. The celestial ancestor's sword. The moment the sword appeared, Wang Lin heard something calling him. Back then, with one sword, many foreign souls were slain. Only those qualified were sealed into continents. Now the two of you have offended the might of the celestial ancestor. Do you still refuse to back down when facing this sword? The celestial emperor's voice echoed as he raised the golden sword and waved at Grand Empyrean Ju Di and Gemini. The sword was silent, but the world changed colors, making it feel like the space here was about to be cut in half. Grand Empyrean Ju Di's expression changed. His hands formed seals and a white sun appeared. The white sun hung in the sky with the purple sun. A white wolf rushed out from the white sun and let out a howl at the golden sword. At the same time, Grand Empyrean Gemini's hands formed seals and purple light covered the world. Purple bamboo appeared behind her and instantly turned into a purple bamboo forest. The bamboo all flew into the air and shot toward the golden sword. "Dao Yi, Wu Feng, if the two of you don't act, When will you? Judy roared as the white wolf rushed forward. A shocking change happened on the Celestial Emperor's left and right sides. The world on the left of the Celestial Emperor became still and nothing moved. Everything stopped and Grand Empyrean Dao Yi walked out. He raised his right hand and pointed at the Celestial Emperor. Everything looked calm, but this represented Dao Yi's Dao. His Dao was everything turned into one. With one finger, he released the peak of his power. On the right side of the Celestial Emperor, the winds raged and clouds escaped. Thunderous rumbles echoed and the bald Grand Empyrean Wu Feng walked out. He didn't hesitate to throw a punch at the Celestial Emperor. Grand Empyrean Wu Feng was someone who had passed through the Alice in the Empyrean trial. He was someone who sought after martial arts and had completed his Dao through it. This punch contained the peak of his faith in his own strength. 4 Grand Empyreans attacked at once. Wang Lin clearly saw all of this from inside the right eye of the celestial ancestor. His mind trembled. He didn't expect such a thing to happen on this trip to the imperial palace. Even Dao Yi and Wu Feng had appeared. When the two of them appeared, Wang Lin understood that everything here was a chess game, and he was only a piece in the game. Even these Grand Empyreans were just pieces. This was a chess game with one side being the Celestial Emperor, but who was the other? The golden sword collided with Gemini, Dao Yi, Wu Feng, and Judy. Thunderous rumbles echoed and Dao Yi was knocked back. Wu Feng retreated with a pale face as popping sounds echoed inside his body. Gemini and Judy had higher cultivation levels than Dao Yi and Wu Feng, but even they were forced back by the golden sword. Although the 4 of them had retreated, the combined power of their attacks was not simple. Aside from that one person in the ancient clan, no one could resist the power of 4 Grand Empyreans at once. Not to mention, this was only an illusion that contained about 10% of the celestial ancestor's true power. The sword collapsed and turned into countless fragments that fell to the earth. At the same time, the celestial ancestor's shadow also disappeared, leaving only the real head. The celestial emperor's body trembled and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He suddenly looked up and stared at Dao Yi and Wu Feng. Judy looked at the Celestial Emperor and coldly said, "If this old man is not enough, then does the Celestial Emperor think adding Dao Yi and Wu Feng is enough?" The Celestial Emperor's expression was gloomy as slowly said, "What exactly do the 4 of you want me to do?" Grand Empyrean Gemini's goal was very clear. She stared at the Celestial Emperor and calmly said, "Release Wang Lin." "Then I'll leave." Judy looked at the celestial ancestor's head and slowly said, "This old man hopes the Celestial Emperor will reseal the skull that suppresses the 72 souls of the Celestial clan. This skull is very important to the Celestial clan, and it is not something the Celestial Emperor should have. My thoughts are the same as Judy's. Celestial Emperor, keeping the balance of power we had between the 5 of us like before is very good. There is no need to change." Dao Yi's expression was gloomy. He looked at the celestial ancestor's head below the Celestial Emperor with dread. Wu Feng pondered a bit and said, "This is also what I want." The Celestial Emperor began to laugh. His laugh was extremely cold. He raised his hand, causing Dao Yi and Wu Feng's expressions to change. He pressed his hand against his chest and golden blood spewed out from his mouth. The celestial ancestor's eyes revealed monstrous golden light, and it opened its mouth to release even more golden light. Even its ears and nose emitted endless golden light. This golden light suddenly spread out, forming a golden wave. This caused Judy and company's expressions to change, and they all retreated. As they retreated, the Celestial Emperor revealed a fierce expression. At this point, he would not easily retreat. He would rather erupt with the full power of the celestial ancestor's head, so that others couldn't get close for a while. Then he would use this time to forcibly absorb the power of the celestial ancestor. Once he succeeded, he wouldn't have the slightest fear when facing 4 Grand Empyreans. As the golden light shined, the Celestial Emperor pressed his hands on the head and absorbed. However, he could not absorb any of the golden light. It was as if there was a layer of seals around the head that prevented him from absorbing the head's power. This is the Dao Wang clan's seal. That damn imperial teacher, when he made the celestial ancestor speak, he used his soul and left a trace of the Dao Wang clan's seal in it. But this seal can stop me. I am the Celestial Emperor. Normally, I might not be able to release it, but with control of the celestial ancestor's head, I can. Even if I released the seal on the Daowang sect, it won T matter. The imperial teacher is dead and can T set off any waves. The celestial emperor's mind raced. The situation was urgent, and he didn't T have time to think too much. 1. Yi is one in Chinese. 3,000 words in a major chapter, hoping to be shared, hoping to get the like button hit for the video. Thunderous rumbles echoed as the 4 Grand Empyreans tried to break through the golden light. Time was of the essence, and the Celestial Emperor knew he hadn't given himself a lot of time. If he was unable to absorb the power of the Celestial Ancestor by force before the 4 Grand Empyreans broke through the golden light, then everything he had done would be for nothing. He would never allow such a thing to happen. Now that he had reached the last step, he was about to succeed and was unwilling to fail now. Not even the imperial teacher could see through my plan. Ju Di only came because he is near the ancestral city, but Dao Yi and Wu Feng came so fast. The celestial emperor clenched his teeth and pointed at the head with his right hand. The moment his finger touched the head, it collapsed into a mess of flesh and blood. With my flesh and blood as the descendant of the celestial ancestor, activate the law of the immortal astral to release the eternal seal on the Daowang clan. The celestial emperor roared and his remaining fingers collapsed. Not only his fingers, but even his palm collapsed as well. This collapse continued. By the time the celestial emperor finished speaking, half of his right arm had disappeared. Large amounts of golden blood spread out and formed a golden rune before him. This rune burned into dust before him. The moment the golden rune finished burning, the imperial teacher, who was possessing Wang Lin's body, trembled. The seal that had been suppressing his Daowang clan for countless generations disappeared. The moment the seal was released, excited tears flowed down from the imperial teacher's eyes. This was his life's pursuit. He had paid everything to release the seal so that his clan could escape from being trapped in this doomed fate from birth. The moment the seal was released, the power from the celestial emperor rushed in. It entered Wang Lin's body and easily erased the existence of the imperial teacher. This was the celestial emperor's last ace. He would not let the imperial teacher continue existing after the seal was released. The moment the seal was released was the moment the imperial teacher would die. When the imperial teacher was about to die, a memory that had been sealed for an unknown amount of time awakened. He faintly remembered that the Daowang clan, after years of inheritance, was almost extinct. He remembered that long after his birth, including him, there were only 3 people left. He didn't know who his parents were, and no one had told him. He only knew that he was a member of the Daowang clan aside from him. He knew he had seen a woman and a baby girl. This mother and daughter were equivalent to his relatives. He remembered that woman was the previous generation's imperial teacher, and that he was not the imperial teacher. The real imperial teacher was the baby girl. He didn't know who the father of the baby girl was, and she had disappeared soon after birth. He was taken by the woman, and was passed down the spells of the imperial teacher. He slowly grew up and his memory was sealed. He still thought that he was the imperial teacher. He gradually grew up and the woman died. He then became an adult, and in his memory there were many members of his clan sleeping. His mission was to release all the sleeping clan members from their fate. He still believed that there were many members of his clan left, but now that his memory had awakened, he remembered that aside from the missing baby girl, he was the only one left in his clan. No wonder the Celestial Emperor dared to release the seal, because the Celestial Emperor knows that I am the only one left in the Daowang clan as long as I die. Even if the seal is released, it will be fine. So it turns out I am not the imperial teacher. So am I a member of the Daowang clan? I should be. Now that the seal is released, the missing baby girl should be the real imperial teacher. Where is she? Who is she? He had thought that he was the imperial teacher the whole time, and was willing to give up everything for his clan to scheme against the Celestial Emperor. Now that he had failed, his memory was unsealed and his thoughts slowly dissipated. Even when he died, he still didn't know who the real imperial teacher was. But even at the moment of death, he didn't complain at all. He understood that perhaps this was his mission, to protect the real imperial teacher and release the seal on his clan. From the moment he was born, this was his doomed mission. As this pitiful person died, the power of the Celestial Emperor swept through Wang Lin's body. After he determined that there weren't any soul fluctuations left, it swept through once more and then left. However, Even the Celestial Emperor didn't notice the heaven-defying bead inside Wang Lin, or Wang Lin's soul inside the heaven-defying bead. After releasing the Dao Wang clan's seal, the Celestial Emperor became excited. He still thought everything was under his control. His strong self-confidence was still there, and he quickly began to absorb the power of the Celestial Ancestor's head. Strands of golden smoke came from the orifices of the Celestial Ancestor's head and entered the Celestial Emperor's body. This caused the Celestial Emperor's cultivation level to suddenly increase. Excitement filled the Celestial Emperor, but he didn't see that in the distance. When he released the seal on the Dao Wang clan, Empyrean Exalt Xianxia's body trembled violently. Xianxia's eyes were filled with confusion and struggle. A memory was awakening in her mind. When the seal on the Dao Wang clan disappeared, a source of power awakened inside her body. This power came from the Dao Wang clan. It belonged to the real imperial teacher of the Celestial clan. Her eyes gradually revealed bright light, and she subconsciously raised her hand. She pointed at the glowing Celestial Ancestor's head. Everything exists because it can be lost. This is death. All those that die due to the thoughts of the living form from nothing. This is Dao. The Dao Wang clan takes the thoughts of the living, takes the existence of the dead, takes pursuit of one's hope, and takes the power of the afterlife to create Joss flames. With this we turn Dao into death to let those that exist continue to exist and let the dead return to nothing. Xianxia muttered as she pointed at the head. All the golden light rapidly contracted back into the Celestial Ancestor's head. When the golden light dissipated, the Celestial Ancestor's head inside the golden light was revealed. The Celestial Ancestor's head below the Celestial Emperor lost all its golden light and slowly closed its eyes. It was filled with death aura once more, and it lost its power to fly, so it fell to the earth. This interrupted the golden aura the Celestial Emperor had been absorbing, and now the aura's source was gone. The golden light scattered from the Celestial Emperor's body and went back into the Celestial Ancestor's head. This sudden change startled the Celestial Emperor. His eyes widened with disbelief, and he suddenly looked up. He immediately saw Empyrean Exalt Xianxia. This is impossible. The Imperial Teacher is dead, completely dead. You are not of the Dao Wang clan. How can you have the power of the Imperial Teacher? The Celestial Emperor almost went mad. He didn't dare believe what he was seeing. He didn't dare to believe and wasn't willing to believe. You are definitely not a member of the Dao Wang clan. Under the Celestial Ancestor's seal, the Dao Wang clan can leave the palace, the ancestral city. You didn't die. Who are you? The Celestial Emperor's face was pale. He had thought that he knew everything and that no one knew his plans. He was filled with self-confidence. Everything had played out according to his plan. Only Dao Yi and Wu Feng's sudden appearances had caused some changes to his plan, but everything else had remained the same. But just as he was about to succeed in absorbing the power of the Celestial Ancestor's head, so that he could become the second Celestial Ancestor, he found that everything was not what he had thought. He was actually inside someone else's scheme. I am the Imperial Teacher, Empyrean Exalt. Xianxia had a complicated expression as she spoke. Her memories had awakened along with her mother's memories and the inheritance of all the previous generations of Imperial Teachers. The person that died was the last member of my clan on the immortal astral continent beside me. Xianxia's sighed. What the hell is this? It's impossible. If you really are the Imperial Teacher, how did you leave the ancestral city? Judy, tell me. The Celestial Emperor took a deep breath. He was a Grand Empyrean, and although he was about to go crazy, he still calmed himself down by force. This plan was created by a genius of my clan. He didn't hesitate to do something that made it seem like he was splitting from the clan. He tried many methods until he successfully left this place and created the Great Soul Sect. Although he died, he perfected the plan and passed it down. He also found the key to this plan, this person called Wang Lin. A cultivator from a cave world. Only his body could be perfectly possessed by my clan member to allow this plan to be perfectly carried out. As for why I can leave the ancestral city, that's because my soul belongs to the Dao Wang clan, but my body belongs to the immortal astral continent, Xianxia said softly. Judy pondered a bit and then slowly said, Celestial Emperor, she is my daughter. The reason I've been able to live for so long with endless lifespan and even became a Grand Empyrean was due to the help of the Dao Wang clan. The Dao Wang clan had been preparing for this for a long time, until they divinated Wang Lin's appearance. Then they put the plan into motion. Ju Di calmly looked at the Celestial Emperor, who was shocked by the truth. Wang Lin also heard this from inside the Celestial Ancestor's head. While everyone was paying attention to Ju Di and Hai, his soul came out of the heaven-defying bead to take control of his body. So this is the truth. His eyes shined brightly. Tonight there will be 2 to 3 new chapters. Leo will do his utmost to make up for the chapters missing from the last 2 days. Ju Di looked at the Celestial Emperor and explained the origin of all of this. This plan was concocted by the genius of the Dao Wang clan, and it has been in motion for generations. He helped me become a Grand Empyrean as the condition for my help. When the previous Celestial Emperor died and before you took over the throne, the previous Imperial teacher found me. According to the plan, we got married and gave birth to a baby girl. This baby girl would have the body from the immortal astral continent, but the soul of the Dao Wang clan originally. This couldn't happen under the Celestial Ancestor's seal, as the power of the seal was too great. However, the Celestial Ancestor had been dead for many years at that point, and the seal was weakening. The genius of the Dao Wang clan came up with a plan, and in order to complete it, it required the entire Dao Wang clan to sacrifice their souls to fight against the power of the seal. Since then, the number of the Dao Wang clan members had been decreasing because of this. Until this generation, where only 2 remained for countless years, the Dao Wang clan members that died used their unique methods to put their souls inside Hai, which has protected her soul. The reason she can leave the ancestral city without dying is due to her body, and also to the protection of the souls of all the Dao Wang clan members. The entire Dao Wang clan spent countless years completing this plan on Hai's body, and she is the only one who can complete this plan. Ju Di calmly looked at the Celestial Emperor as he explained the origin of all of this. Because she is your daughter, you were able to help her without reservation. You even became the godfather of the Dao Wang clan, and obtained the Joss Flames. Only the Celestial Ancestor was eligible for the Dao Wang clan actually paid such a price to release the seal. The Celestial Emperor let out a sigh and revealed a complicated expression. Aside from Hai, the last Dao Wang clan member was the Imperial teacher that just died. In fact, you didn't have to release the seal on the Dao Wang clan. But the ancestor of the Dao Wang clan had already divinated your actions. He knew of your desire for the Celestial Ancestor's inheritance, and that when facing the pressure of the 4 Grand Empyreans, you would not give up but choose to fight. The key to this plan was the Dao Wang clan's sealing power in the Celestial Ancestor's head. A person who could be possessed would have to be absorbed into the Celestial Ancestor's head. Therefore, Wang Lin was very important. The Celestial Emperor silently pondered for a moment. He bitterly looked at Ju Di and Hai before speaking. Then if I didn't insist on releasing the seal but instead to return the Celestial Ancestor's head back, giving up on inheriting the Celestial Ancestor's cultivation, your plan would have been wasted? I won. The person who spoke was not Ju Di but Hai. The current Hai was completely different from before. She gave off a mysterious aura, and calmly looked at the Celestial Emperor. If you had given up on inheriting the Celestial Ancestor's cultivation, then the ambush my Dao Wang clan had prepared would begin. All the spirit temples across the continents obey my clan. All the spirit temples are prepared to awaken the spirits sealed in their continents. The cost of their awakening would shake the Celestial Ancestor's head, and at that time, only the Celestial Ancestor himself would be able to suppress it. You would had to inherit the Celestial Ancestor's power, or the entire Celestial clan would be gone into chaos. Once you tried to inherit the Celestial Ancestor's power, you would had to release the seal on my clan. Hai spoke softly. Like the green scorpion temple, the Celestial Emperor's pupils shrank. Hai nodded. Dao Yi, Wu Feng, I assume you 2 knew about this? The Celestial Emperor's gaze moved to Dao Yi and Wu Feng. Dao Yi frowned and slowly said, Grand Empyrean Ju Di came to me and told me about the Dao Wang clan's plan. But I didn't know anything about this Wang Lin. I only just found out that this Wang Lin was a key part of his plan. Wu Feng silently pondered for a moment and nodded. The Celestial Emperor immediately began to laugh, but his laughter was filled with extreme bitterness. He looked toward Grand Empyrean Gemini. What about you, Gemini? Did you know of this plan as well? Grand Empyrean Gemini's original body remained calm, as if she was not interested in any of this. She looked at the Celestial Emperor. I don't know and didn't want to know. I only came to take away Wang Lin. Whether it's you or Judy, anyone who dares to stop me is my enemy. The Celestial Emperor's eyes lit up. Wang Lin, since the Imperial teacher was able to successfully possess him, then he is dead. I presume you all observed him when he was in the cave world. The Dao Wang clan's ancestor only vaguely divinated a rough period of time where someone would come out of a cave world. He could not divinate who this person was or which cave world. We could only wait. Judy shook his head. The genius of the Dao Wang clan created the Great Soul Sect on the Heavenly Bull continent because it was divinated that Wang Lin would appear there. So the first step of the plan was to make contact with Wang Lin. The Celestial Emperor was very smart and immediately pointed out the key. The Celestial Emperor looked up, and his voice echoed like thunder. However, I wonder if the Great Soul Sect's ancestor knew that this Wang Lin would die here at the Forbidden Palace as a price for releasing the Dao Wang clan's seal. You used Wang Lin to lure Grand Empyrean Gemini here. Otherwise, with just the three of you, you wouldn't have had enough power to force me to try to absorb the Celestial Ancestor's power by force. You also used Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao, Dao Fei, me, and the 72 sealed spirits. I don't believe you did all of this just for the Dao Wang clan, even if she is your daughter. And the two of you, Dao Yi and Wu Feng. For the two of you to come, Judy must have promised you great benefits. You came for your own gains. The reason you are telling me the truth is to make me aware of the situation I am in. You all must need something that requires my cooperation. Only Gemini didn't obtain anything and was used by Judy and the Dao Wang clan. The Celestial Emperor still fought by using his words to try to obtain help from Gemini. Gemini silently pondered. How could she not see through it all after fusing? Celestial Emperor, we don't want to kill you. You just need to use your bloodline power to cut open the Celestial Ancestor's head. You will still be the Celestial Emperor. You will still be a Grand Empyrean. If you are unwilling, then don't blame us for killing you, then drawing out your bloodline power to complete this step. Judy said calmly without any killing intent, but his words were extremely cold. Remini, the Celestial Ancestor's eyes used to be one entity. If you absorb it into your body, it will reverse the accident you had during your reincarnation and even increase your power. It will also allow you to separate and merge at any moment, rather than burn your purple yang force to maintain this fused state. Wu Feng, this old man can confirm that the Celestial Ancestor's ears can hear the sound of Dao and track of the laws of the immortal astral continent. This old man promises to give them to you. Fuse them with your Dao and you can comprehend the peak of the martial Dao. Dao Yi, the Celestial Ancestor's skull, was born from the void, and over the past countless years the essence of his power has gathered here. This old man promises to give it to you. With it, your body and soul can become one. This old man wants the Celestial Ancestor's brain. It is of great use to me. As for the Celestial Ancestor's head, we all split it evenly. Judy calmly looked at the Celestial Ancestor. So you knew about the ancestral curse the Celestial Ancestor left before death? The Celestial Ancestor's expression was gloomy. I had searched for many years and finally found a clue not long ago. Through it, I was able to determine that the legend was true. If the Celestial Ancestor was dead, then anyone who attempted to destroy his body would die. Unless it was a successor with the same bloodline. A successor can use their bloodline to bear the power of the curse so that the bloodline is cut off. Then there will no longer be any more Celestial Ancestor bloodline to be inherited, and only then can the curse be released. Celestial Emperor, now you have no choice but to bear the curse. You won't die, but the title of 8 Extreme will end with your generation. However, the Celestial Ancestor has been dead for countless years, and his might still shrouds the Celestial clan. It is time to change. If you are not willing, then you will without a doubt die, if not for the fact that I'm worried about the situation with the ancient clan changing after your death. This old man wouldn't waste so much time discussing this with you. Judy looked at the Celestial Emperor, and his voice was cold. Make your choice, the Celestial Emperor silently pondered. On the ground inside the dull right eye of the Celestial Ancestor's head, Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he hid his aura. He had heard everything that had happened outside. This trip to the palace had been filled with twists and turns. Wang Lin had guessed some of it before, but not everything. The Great Soul Sect's esteemed Green Bull told me to return 300 years later to go to the top floor, the founder of the Great Soul Sect, left something for me. The old ancestor of the Great Soul Sect, the genius of the Dao Wang clan. After using me to release the seal on the Dao Wang clan, what would he leave me? Wang Lin had a complicated expression. He appeared in the Heavenly Bull continent and founded the Great Soul Sect just to wait for me. Maybe I should be dead in his plan, but if he did divinate, I would die in the palace. Why leave me something in the pavilion, and why 300 years? You used me and schemed against me every step. You calculated my arrival, so I presume you calculated my personality as well. How could I let this matter go? Wang Lin silently pondered and sighed. There was a powerful shock from outside as the celestial ancestor's head flew into the sky. The celestial emperor seemed to have made a choice after pondering for a long time. His right hand reached toward the earth and he raised the celestial ancestor's head. Good night, everyone. We will meet again tomorrow. Just wait a moment. Remember to like the video. Chapter 2. Immortals. The carriage quickly rolled along the road. Wang Lin's body bounced with the uneven ground. In his arm was the package that contained all of his parents' hope as he left the village he had lived in for 15 years. The trip won't be a short one. Wang Lin lied down and fell asleep in the carriage. Not knowing how much time had passed, he was gently nudged. He opened his eyes and looked up to see fourth uncle, who looked at him with smiling face and asked, "Taiju, how do you feel about leaving home for the first time?" Wang Lin noticed that the carriage had stopped and smiled. Not much to say, just a little afraid if I will be selected by the immortals or not. Fourth uncle let out a laugh and patted Taiju's shoulder, saying, "Okay, don't overthink it. This is Uncle S' house. You go rest first, then I'll take you to the family tomorrow morning." After getting off the carriage, in front of Wang Lin was a tile-roofed house. He followed fourth uncle to a room. Wang Lin sat on the bed. He was unable to sleep. The things that his parents, the villagers, and relatives said flashed through his mind. He signed in his heart. The thought of becoming the disciple of an immortal became heavier in his mind. Time passed by, bit by bit. A moment later, the sun gradually started to rise. Wang Lin didn't get much rest throughout the night, but he was still full of energy. With a trace of fear, he followed fourth uncle to the main house of the Wang family. This was the first time Wang Lin had seen a house this big, leaving him in a daze. Fourth uncle said, while walking, "Taiju, you have to make your father proud. Don't let the relatives ridicule you." Wang Lin's mind became more tense. He bit his lips and nodded. Soon, fourth uncle brought him to the middle of the courtyard. Taiju's father's eldest brother was standing there. When he saw Taiju, he nodded and said, "Taiju, when the immortal arrives, don't freak out. Just follow your older brother Wang Zhuo. Do everything he does." The old man's tone was very hard on those last few words. Wang Lin stayed silent. He looked around and noticed that besides Wang Zhuo, there was another youth. The youth's skin was a bit dark. His build was very large, and his eyes showed a hint of intelligence. There was a bulge in his shirt, like he was hiding something. He looked at Taiju and made a face, then ran over and said, "So you re-second Uncle a son? My name is Wang Hao." Wang Lin chuckled and nodded. When the old man saw Wang Lin ignoring him, he became very annoyed and was about to scold him. Right at that moment, the clouds in the sky suddenly split. A sword of light suddenly descended like lightning. After the light disappeared, there stood a youth in white, whose eyes were bright and piercing, emitting an elegant spirit. This cold eye swept across the three youths, especially at the youth with the bulge in his shirt. He coldly asked, "Are these three the ones recommended by the Wang family?" "This is an immortal." Under his gaze, Wang Lin started to feel cold. His heart started pounding, and his face became pale while staring at the immortal. The dark-skinned youth, after seeing the immortal, placed his hands near the pockets of his pants, showing a respectful demeanor. His eyes held a fanatical expression. Only Wang Zhuo casually looked at the others and snorted. Wang Zhuo's father quickly stepped forward and respectfully said, "Immortal, these three are the Wang family's recommended youths." The youth nodded and impatiently said, "Who is Wang Zhuo?" The old man's face showed a flash of happiness. Then he quickly pulled Wang Zhuo. "Immortal, this is my son, Wang Zhuo." The immortal youth gave Wang Zhuo a deep look. His face brightened and he nodded. Wang Zhuo is indeed talented. No wonder Uncle Master took a liking to him. Wang Zhuo proudly looked at Wang Lin and proudly said, "This is natural. In order to become an immortal, One must have a strong spirit. The youth made a frown, but it quickly disappeared. He directed a faint smile at Wang Zhuo's direction, waved his sleeves, and took the 3 youths on the rainbow and disappeared. Fourth uncle looked into the sky and muttered, "Tai Zhu, you must be selected." Wang Lin felt his body lighten. The wind hitting his face caused him pain. On closer inspection, he noticed that he was under the arm of the youth, flying quickly through the sky. The village turned into little black dots as they quickly flew forward. After just a little while, the wind caused his eyes to turn red and tear up. "Unless you 3 want to become blind, close your eyes," the youth coldly said. Wang Lin's heart tensed. He quickly closed his eyes, afraid to keep looking. After a short period of time, Wang Lin could feel that the youth was short of breath and that his speed started decreasing. Then, in a flash, the youth quickly descended. The moment before landing, the youth loosened his arm, and the 3 youths fell to the ground. Thankfully, the fall wasn't too hard. The 3 got up quickly. In front of Wang Lin was a paradise-like scene, with mountains, flowers, and a river. It was a truly idyllic scene. Straight ahead was a towering mountain. Its peak was covered in clouds, which hid its true appearance. Echoes of beast cries could be heard. There was a path of twisted steps that snaked its way down the mountain, like a painting, evoking a feeling of a different world. Far off, in the distance, at the top of the mountain stood a hall. Even though it was covered by the clouds, the shining bright light made people to want to worship it. Next to the hall was a silver-colored bridge with the shape of a crescent moon, which connected that peak with another mountain peak. With these natural beauties, this was truly worthy of being the location of the Hang Yue sect. The Hang Yue sect was one of the few existing immortal sects. 500 years ago, it was the leading force of the entire cultivation world, with many branch sects. However, with the passage of time, it had shrunk to its current size, and was only barely able to have a foothold in the cultivation world. However, for the mortals near the Hang Yue sect, it was still an elusive figure. "Little brother Zhang, are these the 3 candidates recommended by the Wang family?" A middle-aged man dressed in black with an immortal demeanor floated down from the mountain's peak. The youth showed a face full of respect and said, "Third brother, these are the Wang family's 3 recommended youths." The middle-aged man's gaze swept across them. He focused on Wang Zhuo a few times. Smiling, he said, "I know you are about to have a breakthrough. I'll handle the test you go cultivate." The youth agreed. His body moved toward the mountain, and in the blink of an eye disappeared without a trace. Wang Lin stared at the scene before him, full of excitement. Suddenly, he noticed someone tugging his clothes and turned around. It was Wang Hao. His eyes were filled with excitement. He said, "This is where the immortals live. FK my grandmother. No matter what, I, Wang Hao, must be selected." Saying so, he touched the bulging object concealed in his shirt. 4,000 words in a major chapter. Read an extra 1,000 words, wishing for the like button on the video to help. Chapter 19 chased out. When he thought of those gourds, he just couldn't control his anger. No matter how he looked at the gourds on his way back, they looked normal. He even hollowed them out to fill with spring water. He was spotted by fellow apprentice brother and was laughed at. Wang Lin sneered in his heart, but on the surface he wore an innocent face as he said, "I don't know what spiritual energy is. I just heard you say that you'll give me a spirit stone if I bring you a gourd. How about you explain to me what spiritual energy is?" Sun Dazhu felt dizzy. He seriously looked at Wang Lin for a long time. He began to suspect that the gourd was really the only one, and was picked up in a stroke of luck by this dumb kid. After pondering a little, he realized that what Wang Lin had said was reasonable. Only after reaching the first layer of QI condensation would one be able to detect spiritual energy in the surroundings. After thinking about it, he regretted putting drug in his food. This kid's talent was already bad, and now with the drug, it would take at least 30 to 50 years before he could reach the first layer of QI condensation. Sun Dazhu sighed, but he isn't willing to give up. He hesitantly took out a low-quality spirit stone and tossed it to Wang Lin. "This is the promised low-quality spirit stone. Take this to cultivate and quickly cultivate to the first layer of QI condensation." Wang Lin quickly took it and returned to his room after expressing his gratitude. Sun Dazhu just stood there for a long time before sighing and muttered to himself, "This is the only way to see if he is lying." Soul search was a simple, immortal technique. The worst possible outcome for the person it was used on would be death due to their soul being shattered. The best would be becoming a retard. But this soul technique also had drawbacks. Before one reached the core formation stage, if used on a mortal, the user would suffer the same damage as the target. If one was in the core formation stage, then it was not an issue. However, it could only be used 3 times in one's lifetime, and every time it was used, the user would lose 1 level of cultivation. Wang Lin sat cross-legged in his room. No matter how he observed the stone, it didn't seem special at all. However, when he was holding it, he felt his mind become very clear. He started cultivating. The night passed by. Wang Lin sighed. He still didn't get the feeling of ants crawling in his body. No sign of spiritual energy in his body. He smiled bitterly. At that moment, someone pushed open the door. Sun Daju walked in with a dark expression, carrying a bowl of black liquid. "Drink this." Wang Lin was stunned. He cautiously looked at it. Before taking it, he asked, "Teacher, what is this?" Sun Daju saw Wang Lin's expression and became angry. He shouted, "Do you really think I would harm you? If it wasn't tea to help you reach the first layer of QI condensation, do you really think I would spend the whole night and waste precious herbs to make this drug?" Wang Lin hesitated and saw Sun Daju's unkind gaze. He took the bowl and gulped the drug down. After he finished drinking it, he felt a burning feeling coming from his stomach. It spread to his whole body, making him feel thirsty. It was as if he was being baked in a fire. His vision turned black. He dropped the bowl and felt as if he was about to fall asleep. "Quickly cultivate, I'll help you absorb." Sun Daju reluctantly put his hand on Wang Lin's chest. A cool feeling entered Wang Lin's head, clearing his mind. He quickly started to cultivate. Sun Daju sadly looked at the bowl on the floor. He muttered a few words, then took out a few low-quality spirit stones and placed them around Wang Lin. He thought, "Boy, this time I'm investing a lot into you. In the future, you better repay me for all this." After a little while, the feeling of ants crawling in his body came. Sun Daju could clearly feel Wang Lin's body condensing the spiritual energy from the drug. A joyous expression appeared on his face. Just at that moment, a foul QI appeared within Wang Lin's body and quickly destroyed the condensing QI. Sun Daju's face was bitter. He knew that the source of the foul QI was the QI-shattering grass he had placed in Wang Lin's food yesterday. After all the spiritual energy from the drug was used up, there still wasn't any QI condensed in Wang Lin's body. Sun Daju sighed. He stared at Wang Lin with mixed feelings. Wang Lin opened his eyes. His body felt light and very comfortable. He was about to thank Sun Daju when he noticed the elder's bitter face. Sun Daju left without saying a word. Wang Lin was stunned. He didn't know what was going on with Sun Daju. He walked out and shouted, "Teacher, I'll go to the spring and see how my luck is today." Sun Daju didn't say a word, but the gate to the garden silently opened. As he walked out, Sun Daju still followed behind him, unwilling to give up. 1 month quickly passed. In that month, Wang Lin went to the spring to cultivate every day, and Sun Daju followed him every day. He became more and more disappointed each day. Throughout the month, he gave Wang Lin drugs every day to help him condense his QI, but they all failed. Sun Daju's temper became worse and worse. The most important thing Sun Daju noticed was that the spiritual energy in the gourd slowly disappeared. After only a month, the spring water that filled the gourd came out as just spring water. Finally, the gourd became the same as a normal gourd. Sun Daju was disappointed. After analyzing it, he guessed that this was a normal gourd, but was somehow charged with spiritual energy. This kid must have just stumbled upon it by pure luck. The chances of him having more gourds like this was very low. He was more and more convinced that this was correct, causing his heart to ache. This month, he didn't do anything but spy on Wang Lin and made medication for him. Now, all that effort had been wasted. He angrily called Wang Lin over. He reprimanded him, and with a wave of his sleeve, threw him out of the yard. Every time he saw Wang Lin, he would get angry. Now he was out of sight and out of mind. After a while, he had completely forgotten about that disciple. He thought again, even though Wang Lin had been taking medication the whole month, it would still take 8 to 10 years for Wang Lin to reach the first layer of QI condensation, unless he kept taking the medicine. Brothers, have you not yet hit the like button for the video? Wish that the like button for the video would be hit. Chapter 199. Land of the Ancient God. Final. I have a coconut. Wang Lin clearly remembered how many ice crystals he had absorbed. After the 70th ice crystal, they took several times longer to absorb. As Wang Lin absorbed more ice crystals, they contained more and more memories, and the first thing that Wang Lin would do after breaking out of the cocoon was check his body. As he absorbed more and more of the inheritance, his speculation was confirmed. The star on his forehead represented the amount of times that his body had undergone reconstruction. After every ice crystal he absorbed, the color of the star on his forehead would become more clear, and at the same time, Wang Lin could clearly feel that with every ice crystal he absorbed, his body underwent an adjustment. After readjusting 70 times, Wang Lin could feel his body's toughness. It was as if he was following the steps of the ancient gods. Although from the outside his body looked completely normal, the inside had undergone tremendous change. After absorbing 70 ice crystals, his body was extremely robust. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He speculated that in its current state, his body would be able to withstand blows from a spirit-forming stage cultivator. Time passed. Today, within the space that contained the ancient god's inheritance of knowledge, there were no more blue ice crystals remaining. The only thing left was a giant dark blue cocoon. The cocoon was not normal. There were countless cracks on its surface. If one looked carefully, then they would say that they looked like the cracks on Tusi's skin. This giant cocoon had been here for countless years with no sign of breaking. The entire surrounding area felt like it was silenced by some mysterious force. There had been no change in these countless years. Wang Lin's body laid inside the cocoon. His heart had long since stopped beating. His entire body lied in there, in a death-like state. His soul was in complete chaos. The time that it was taking to absorb the last ice crystal had been much longer than the last 93 combined. His soul was submerged in the ancient god's memories. He experienced the events from the birth of the ancient god Tusi, to when he decided to practice the flowing ink transformation divine technique, as if he was there himself. After experiencing all that, Wang Lin even had a feeling that he himself was an ancient god. This type of confusion was something that Wang Lin had been avoiding. But now, on the last ice crystal, this feeling burst forth. Because of this, Wang Lin's soul remained in a state of slumber. After an unknown amount of time, a cracking sound could be heard from the giant cocoon. Shortly after, continuous cracking sounds emitted from the cocoon. The countless lines that covered it began to grow wider. Soon, with a pop, the entire cocoon broke open. A body emerged from the cocoon. That person had black eyes and white hair, with a very ordinary face, but very tyrannical atmosphere. Currently, the person's eyes were closed and his was stopped. He presented no sign of life. After a long time, his eyes opened. His eyes felt like they contained endless power. Wang Lin slowly let out a breath. Then he examined his body. After absorbing the 94th ice crystal, he could clearly feel how strong his body had become. Even though he hadn't done any testing, he was confident that this body would help him reach his goal and bring him many benefits. Recalling when he was absorbing the last ice crystal, his heart still felt shocked. If he didn't take precautions before going into it, like when he absorbed the 50th ice crystal and slowed down the rate he was absorbing the ice crystals in order to create a solid foundation, then after absorbing the 94th ice crystal, he would have lost himself and would ended up becoming a lunatic who thought he was too shy. Because of the solid foundation that he had built, he was able to withstand the storm and keep his identity. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. The memories he obtained were almost complete, but his heart still felt a trace of doubt. According to the memories that he had received, they contained the moment of Tusi's birth to when Tusi started practicing the flowing ink transformation divine technique, but not of when he was practicing the technique that led to his death. Wang Lin pondered for a while. He carefully scanned the surroundings. He had a wild guess that there weren't only 94 ice crystals, but not too much more. It says just that. Why weren't the remaining few here? Wang Lin frowned and pondered it for a while, but gave up thinking about it. Both his hands moved to form a seal. Then he spoke in the ancient god's language and said, "Open!" Immediately, a curved rift opened before him. Within it were 3 black, glowing stones. Wang Lin grabbed the 3 stones with this right hand. As he stepped forward, ripples spread out from under his feet. He took 3 steps, and his body disappeared from this place. Those 3 stones were the key material for making the restriction flag. Within a rift in the ancient god's meridian, There were countless restrictions placed in a way that formed a ring around a certain spot, releasing a dangerous scent. A figure with white hair suddenly appeared outside the ring. After he appeared, he stared at the ring. After looking at it for a while and confirming that there was no change, he walked forward. Those restrictions seemed as if they had lost their power, because none of them activated at all. With every step, the nearby restrictions disappeared. As he walked to the center of the ring, all of the restrictions on the way disappeared. He was Wang Lin, and as for these restrictions, they were the ones that he himself had placed to protect his body and his bags of holding. Although he believed this place to be safe because it was not really within the meridian, but in the special space created from the memories of the inheritance, Wang Lin personally was very careful, so he still left many safety measures. After entering the restrictions, his eyes landed on his old body and the bags of holding. His eyes revealed a look of regret. The body before him had already rotten. There were traces of Ling Qi released from the body Shidan. Next to the body were some bags of holding. Wang Lin let out a sigh. If he hadn't reconstructed a body after he received the inheritance of memory, then he would have to obtain another body. He placed his right hand on the chest of his old body. The lifeless body suddenly started to release thick Ling Qi. Soon, cracks appeared on the body's hands and feet and continued to spread. As the cracks grow wider, the fluctuations of Ling Qi grew larger. Eventually, the body completely shattered, and a fist-sized Jidan floated out of it. There were countless specks of colored dots scattered among the shattered body. Upon seeing the Jidan, he felt a sense of familiarity. After all, this was the Jidan that he had formed himself, and this connection wasn't something that time would cut. Shortly after, Wang Lin's right hand reached out and the Jidan flew toward him. The moment the Jidan reached his hand, it disappeared into his body and charged toward his dantian. Once it reached his dantian, it started to slowly rotate in place. Waves of Ling Qi washed over Wang Lin's body. He closed his eyes and felt his body. He reopened his eyes, stared at the remains of his old body. He hand-formed a seal as he growled, "Infernal flame?" As his words left his lips, the blue dots mixed in with the remains of the body came together to form a blue flame. Wang Lin opened his mouth and sucked the flame into his body. It disappeared into his dantian. Wang Lin waved his right hand and made the bags of holding next to the body fly one by one into his hand. Shortly after, a white light emitted from his hand and a black cloak appeared. After putting on the cloak, Wang Lin grabbed at the void, created a rift. Without any hesitation, he walked into it. He appeared again at the place that held the inheritance of knowledge. Wang Lin took a deep breath and checked his surroundings. After making sure that everything was the same as before, he began to chant some very complex words in the ancient god's language. With the seal formed by his hand, a simmering light screen appeared before him. The words in his mouth acted like an invisible hand expanding the light screen. Soon, the light screen became large enough, and the ancient god's image appeared on it. Wang Lin was very familiar with the pressure that ancient god Tusi's illusion had, so his heart remained calm. After the image appeared, the 8 stars on Tusi's forehead shot out 8 beams of light, forming an octagon-shaped whirlpool. Wang Lin stared at Tusi's image and thought, "Land of the ancient gods, goodbye." Thank you all for the support, especially for the large golden gifts from Leo. Leo is so touched he could cry. By the end of this month, Leo's video is facing a challenge in the popular rankings. Hoping to get more likes for the video. Wang Lin's expression was serious. He was hiding inside the head so no one had noticed him. However, if the head was cut open by the Celestial Emperor, he would be noticed by the others. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he became focused. The Celestial Emperor pulled the 100-foot Celestial Ancestor head up. When it floated before him, he suddenly looked up and revealed a decisive gaze. His left hand rose up and his palm turned into a blade. Golden light shined and the veins on his face swelled. The blood in his body seemed to boil and gather inside his left hand. He cut down at the head, and after a loud rumble, a crack appeared on the Celestial Ancestor's head. Endless golden light came from the crack, and the Celestial Emperor's face was filled with pain. His body rapidly aged. At this moment, Dao Yi, Wu Feng, and Zhu Di looked over. Only Haizi had a complicated expression as she looked at the head. It was unknown what she was thinking. However, just as the Celestial Emperor revealed a painful expression, Zhu Di suddenly let out a roar. He charged forward at an extremely fast speed. Shortly after, Dao Yi and Wu Feng's expressions changed and they followed. When the Celestial Emperor's right hand fell on the head, cracks appeared on it, but just at that moment, his hand had gone from a blade to a palm. He no longer cut open the head, but instead pushed down. He didn't choose to compromise, and instead completely cut the head open, pushing his celestial ancestor bloodline into the head. You all underestimated my guts. What is there to fear about death? If I have to live like a dog, what's the point of being a Grand Empyrean? Better to fight for a chance. The Celestial Emperor laughed as the 3 Grand Empyreans closed in. The head absorbed the strength of the bloodline, and then its eyes suddenly opened. Its mouth also opened, and golden smoke came out from its orifices. When the golden smoke spread out, the Celestial Emperor opened his mouth and began to inhale it like crazy. If the Celestial Emperor absorbed all this golden smoke, he could inherit the Celestial Ancestor's cultivation. He could even reverse the damage caused by the ancestral curse from cutting the head. His cut had not only caused a crack to appear on the head, it also broke open Hai Z's seal. Although a crack had appeared on the head, now the Celestial Emperor could absorb the inheritance by force again. In the distance, Imperial Teacher Hai Z's face immediately turned pale and blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. Dao Yi's eyes were filled with viciousness as he raised his right hand, and a palm landed on the Celestial Emperor's body. At the same time, Wu Feng also attacked. He threw a punch. As Judy closed in, a white wolf appeared around him and attempted to devour the Celestial Emperor. Just as their spells appeared, the Celestial Emperor raised his head. Golden blood flowed out of his eyes and orifices. The blow rapidly changed color to bright red. This was the sign of his bloodline dissipating. Those eyes covered in blood revealed madness. Not good. Judy's expression changed and he was about to stop his attack, but he was too late. The Celestial Emperor hadn't absorbed the golden smoke at all. Everything he'd done before looked real, but it was all fake. The golden smoke he had absorbed all spread out. The Celestial Emperor let out a hysterical laugh and his body visibly expanded. He had chosen to blow himself up. This was outside of everyone's expectations. Judy thought that they hadn't pushed the Celestial Emperor to the point of self-destruction. The self-destruction of a Grand Empyrean, although it was only his body, could shake the world. Even if he were to possess another body, he would no longer be a Grand Empyrean. This self-destruction echoed toward the Forbidden Palace and destroyed it in a flash. This force spread out to the collapsed sky above and instantly disintegrated all the pillars in the palace above. When the underground palace dissipated, this place that existed in an overlapping space with the Imperial Palace formed a connection. This collapsing force erupted out onto the square of the Imperial Palace. The earth of the palace was scattered in all directions as everything collapsed. The entire palace that had existed for countless years in the ancestral city was completely destroyed, as if a hand had swept by. The beautiful palaces and all the cultivators inside them disappeared without a trace. The shocking explosion shook the entire ancestral city and caused it to tremble in fear. Just as this destructive force closed in on the Celestial Ancestor statue in the Imperial Palace, the statue suddenly released blinding golden light. The light and the impact collided to create a thunderous rumble. This rumble became even more intense until it became a heavenly roar that echoed across the central continent. At the source of this explosion, where the Celestial Emperor had exploded his body and his Grand Empyrean power, a large amount of flesh flew toward Dao Yi, Wu Feng, and Zhu Di. The Celestial Emperor's self-destruction could collapse the palace but was not enough to destroy the 3 of them. This was especially true when the 3 of them worked together and their power increased several-fold. However, because they had attacked, their faces immediately turned pale and became filled with fear. This was because the power of their spells had fused with the flesh and blood of the Celestial Emperor, causing their auras to fuse with his exploded flesh and blood. Due to their counterattack, they weren't affected as much, but the thing that was most affected was the Celestial Ancestor's head. The Celestial Ancestor's head should not be so fragile, but when the Celestial Emperor's palm had descended, it had caused golden smoke to come out, and also cracks to appear on the head. As a result, the destructive force of the Celestial Emperor's self-destruction and Zhu Di and company's counterattack hit the Celestial Ancestor's head. This caused the head to rumble and crack open. As the crack spread, it was equal to all 4 of them violating the ancestral curse at the same time. Dao Yi had the weakest cultivation and he immediately let out a miserable scream. Large amounts of black gas surrounded him and his beautiful face rapidly decayed. Wu Feng let out a muffled groan as his body was surrounded by black gas and began to decay. Zhu Di had the highest cultivation level, and the ancestral curse was split among the four of them. He was able to resist the curse with his powerful cultivation. Strange runes appeared on his body, making for a shocking sight. The Celestial Emperor had only exploded his flesh, so his soul still remained. As the skull cracked open, his soul was rapidly dissipating, and he rushed toward the head. He was heading to the left eye, where Lian Daofei was. I am the Celestial Emperor. I have wisdom beyond that of others. How could I not have a backup prepared? Daofei is my backup. I'll take control of his body and use it to help me share the burden of the ancestral curse. He has also inherited some of the Celestial Ancestor's cultivation, so I can still turn this around. The Celestial Emperor's soul was burning, and while the other three were dealing with the ancestral curse, he rushed toward the left eye of the cracked head. However, just as his soul neared the left eye, and he was about to rush into Lian Daofei's body, a shocking change occurred. There was a flash of golden light from the Celestial Ancestor's right eye, and Wang Lin walked out. He had waited a long time for this critical moment. He was like a hunter who had waited until this moment to begin the hunt. Wang Lin wasn't affected by the ancestral curse at all. At this moment, Dao Yi let out a tragic cry, Wu Feng retreated, and Zhu Di was resisting the curse. Wang Lin charged directly into the left eye. When Gemini saw Wang Lin, she immediately revealed a joyous expression. There was also Empyrean Exalt, High Z. There were ripples in her eyes and a flash of excitement passed by. Wang Lin moved extremely fast and entered the left eye in a flash. It was the moment when the Celestial Emperor, who was surrounded by the ancestral curse and whose soul was burning, was about to enter Lian Daofei. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. There was no hesitation as he waved his hand at the Celestial Emperor. Although the Celestial Emperor was a Grand Empyrean, his body had exploded and his soul was damaged from the ancestral curse, so he was very weak. After seeing Wang Lin, he let out a scream that could pierce one's soul. You, the Celestial Emperor screamed, filled with endless fear. He had accounted for everything. Even at the last moment, he had gone all out like a true ruler. But he could not have expected Wang Lin to be alive. It wasn't only him, Zhu Di, Dao Yi, and Wu Feng didn't expect Wang Lin to still be alive either. With a wave of his sleeve, the Celestial Emperor's soul let out a scream, but instead of retreating, he rushed toward Lian Daofei. However, he stood no chance as he was pulled into Wang Lin's storage space. The extremely weak Celestial Emperor, along with the ancestral curse, was no longer a threat to Wang Lin. Just as Wang Lin put away the Celestial Emperor's soul, the Celestial Ancestor's head trembled. The crack from before was too large, and now it cracked open even more. Wang Lin grabbed the unconscious Lian Daofei and walked out from the left eye. He stood in this collapsed world and stepped on top of the Celestial Ancestor's head. His head full of white hair rapidly turned black at this moment. Black hair, black robe, black eyes. This person, Wang Lin, will take them. As time goes on, a heavy dizziness is setting in. My mind can't cope. Tomorrow I will continue to burst forth with all my might. In 12 hours, that will be doubling the likes for the video, hoping that everyone is ready with 2 likes for Leo. Thank you. Wang Lin's appearance, his clean actions, and his words caused everyone to become silent. Grand Empyrean Zhu Di's expression was gloomy. He felt tearing and burning pain inside his body, but he suppressed it with his powerful cultivation. He stared at Wang Lin, and killing intent appeared in his eyes. He had calculated everything, but he hadn't expected the Celestial Emperor to give up his Grand Empyrean body and choose to self-destruct. This didn't match his understanding of the Celestial Emperor. Even so, it was fine. Although the Celestial Emperor had exploded, the head had been opened. The ancestral curse was scattered between them, so it wasn't fatal. They also had no reason to fight each other, so they wouldn't make the curse worse. They would take what they needed, and would then return to their caves to go into closed-door cultivation to slowly remove the curse. However, what had caused Zhu Di to miscalculate again was that Wang Lin was still alive. Not only had he not died, it looks like his cultivation level had increased, and now he had taken the initiative. Now that they were affected by the ancestral curse, they were in a passive position. Not far away, Grand Empyrean Wu Feng's face rapidly aged, and his eyes dimmed. His body trembled, and he looked at Wang Lin with a complicated gaze. As for Grand Empyrean Dao Yi, he was covered by black gas, and was filled with pain as he endured the ancestral curse that was trying to melt his body. Now that Wang Lin had appeared, he felt anger along with the pain. This anger came from an ant daring to bare its fangs against a lion. Arrogant, courting death, Dao Yi let out a howl. He had the weakest cultivation among the Grand Empyreans, and now he was under the ancestral curse, so he didn't have much time to think. Even if Wang Lin was number 1 among Ascendant Empyreans, he was still an ant. As he spoke, Dao Yi turned the pain he felt into killing intent and rushed toward Wang Lin. As he closed in, he raised his right hand and black gas gathered around it. It was a shocking sight. One palm fell and the world seemed to stop as if everything had fused into one and descended on Wang Lin. The black-haired Wang Lin suddenly looked up, and his gaze was filled with indifference. As the palm descended, he put the madman down and waved. Thunderous rumbles echoed as the black slaughter thunder formed a net before Wang Lin. The moment the net appeared, Wang Lin's black hair moved without any wind. An aura of slaughter and destruction spread out from his body. At this moment, Wang Lin was the spirit of slaughter and destruction. When slaughter appeared, it was the beginning of the end. This net had black thunder arcing across it and contained a destructive slaughter force. It immediately collided with Dao Yi's palm. Thunderous rumbles echoed and the thunder net collapsed. Wang Lin's body trembled and split into countless strands of black gas. He recondensed in an instant, and his eyes were still as cold and indifferent. Slaughter could not be destroyed. Although Dao Yi was a Grand Empyrean, he was currently being affected by the ancestral curse, and therefore could only use about 50% of his power. He also had to face Wang Lin's slaughter thunder, which caused him to tremble and retreat a few steps. His eyes were filled with disbelief, and he immediately felt the strange aura coming from the thunder net. This aura began raging inside his body, and he could not expel it. This was also the first time Dao Yi had been knocked back by a non-Grand Empyrean after he became a Grand Empyrean. He had almost forgotten this feeling, and when it washed over him, he felt disbelief. This slaughter aura also caused the ancestral curse inside his body to become more violent. Pieces of rotten flesh fell from his face. The power of the ancestral curse became even more intense. As Dao Yi spoke, his words became a hiss from the intense pain. If it was an Ascendant Empyrean, they would have already perished from this pain. Wang Lin waved his sleeve and slowly said, "Dao Yi, if you still want to fight, I don't mind watching the ancestral curse become even more serious and seeing if you fall or not." Dao Yi stared at Wang Lin but didn't speak. For the first time, he felt a sense of fear even he himself could not believe. Even more pieces of rotting flesh fell from his face. He no longer looked as beautiful as he did in the past. Judia's expression was gloomy as his gaze fell on Wang Lin. "Wang Lin, this old man admits that I have underestimated you again. You hid until now and appeared at this moment to take the initiative. Even this old man admires you. However, if you think you can use the fact that we have to deal with the ancestral curse to take away the celestial ancestor's head, it is impossible. Wang Lin, you are a smart person. This old man really doesn't want to act, as it would make the ancestral curse worse, but don't force me. Hand over the head and this old man will let you leave here safely. We will take an oath to not hurt you in the future and even help you become a Grand Empyrean. If you are still greedy, then this will be your grave," Judy said calmly as he looked at Wang Lin. "Even Gemini is extremely weak now, so she is not this old man's match. In addition, there is also Wu Feng and Dao Yi. Although neither of them can display their full power and have to deal with the ancestral curse, they can still delay Gemini a bit. Besides, the Dao Wang clan's imperial teacher Hai Zi is here too. Wang Lin don't seek death. What is more, any of the Grand Empyreans can burn some Grand Empyrean power to crush you." Wang Lin's expression was calm as his gaze swept past everyone. At the same time, Grand Empyrean Gemini moved and arrived next to Wang Lin. Her face immediately turned pale and purple light covered her body. Her body seemed to melt and turn back into the two little girls. The two little girls' faces were deathly pale and they looked very weak. It seemed fusing into one required them to pay a great price. Wang Lin didn't hesitate. The moment they appeared beside him, He raised his right foot and stomped on the celestial ancestor's head. The head trembled, and 2 eyes covered in golden light were knocked out from the head. The celestial ancestor's head contained the ancestral curse, but this curse had been broken by the celestial emperor and company. Back when Wang Lin collected the celestial emperor's soul, he became aware of this and was not worried about the curse. The celestial ancestor's eyes used to be one, and after they flew out, the 2 little girls immediately grabbed them. Since this item is useful to Grand Empyrean Gemini, then please accept it. Thank you for your help. As Wang Lin spoke, Judy's expression changed. He let out a roar and rushed toward Wang Lin. Dao Yi's eyes were blood red as he rushed forward while covered in black gas. Wu Feng, Hai Zi, attack at once! Judy felt extremely aggrieved. He was a Grand Empyrean who had lived for far too long, but now he had to summon others for help. This was a rare humiliation for him. This child can be allowed to live? Judy was filled with killing intent. As he closed in, Grand Empyrean Gemini, who had turned back into 2 little girls, each held an eye. Although their faces were pale, their gazes were decisive. Their bodies trembled as they fused back into the real Gemini and rushed toward Judy and Dao Yi. Thunderous rumbles echoed. In the distance, Wu Feng hesitated. Empyrean Exalt Hai Zi bit her lower lip as she was clearly struggling. As Grand Empyrean Gemini was resisting Judy and Dao Yi, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. His right hand created 2 rays of black light that cut off the celestial ancestor's 2 ears. Golden blood splattered as the pair of ears shined bright and flew toward Wu Feng. Grand Empyrean Wu Feng, this is what you need. I want to send you off. Grand Empyrean Wu Feng raised his right hand and caught them. He silently put the ears away and took a few steps back. He had no need to participate, especially with the curse on him. He didn't want to act, and he needed to return to his cave to get rid of the curse. While retreating, Wu Feng remained silent and only gave Wang Lin a profound look. He turned around and disappeared. When Judy, who was being blocked by Gemini, saw this, the killing intent in his eyes became even stronger. He clenched his teeth and let out a roar. White light erupted from his body and formed a white sun behind him. The white wolf roared and its head penetrated Judy's body, flying toward Gemini. Dao Yi, Hai Zi, steal the head. Judy erupted his full power at the risk of the ancestral curse to fight against Gemini. In a flash, Dao Yi flew over Gemini and a sun also appeared behind him. He was also going all out at the expense of the curse worsening. But he was the weakest among the Grand Empyreans, and the ancestral curse on his body was extremely serious. At this moment, the sun was dim, as if it could dissipate at any time. He still could not use much of his power. It was enough to kill an ascendant Empyrean, but killing the black-haired Wang Lin in a short period of time was not possible. He would still need Hai Zi's help. If Hai Zi assisted him with her Dao Wang clan spells, they would have a chance to win. Wang Lin's expression was calm, and the celestial ancestor's head retreated with him. He raised his head and spoke to the struggling Hai Zi. I don't know if I should call you Empyrean Exalt Hai Zi or Imperial Teacher Hai Zi. Your Dao Wang clan used me to release the seal. Even if you join forces with Judy, at most I give up the head, but it is impossible for me to die here. As a result, even if you participate, you won't gain anything, and it won't do your Dao Wang clan any good. If you don't participate, then I can write off everything that has happened, as if it had never happened. The second watch has come. So thankful for the praise from the new clan leader. Last night Leo started from the starting point, immediately saw a new follower. I'm ecstatic. Thank you, everyone. Hai Zi silently pondered and let out a sigh. She didn't attack and closed her eyes. Judy gritted his teeth due to Hai Zi's decision, and his expression became even more gloomy. However, he didn't try to persuade her. He began fighting against Gemini. The thunderous rumbles from their battle spread in all directions. More thunderous rumbles echoed as Dao Yi closed in on Wang Lin. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He was going to kill Wang Lin and use Wang Lin as fresh blood to wash away his shame. Wang Lin's expression was as cold as always. When Dao Yi arrived, a rare trace of battle intent appeared in his eyes. This battle intent had not appeared within him in a long time. This was from his comprehension of the battle intent essence he had obtained in the cave world. This was the peak of cultivators like us never shrink from a fight. Dao Yi. Wang Lin stood on the celestial ancestor's head and let out a roar at the sky. His black hair moved without any wind, and he raised his right hand. A golden sword fragment appeared in his hand. This was the fragment of the celestial ancestor's sword that Zhu Di had given him on the long street. At that time, Zhu Di could have never imagined that Wang Lin would have survived the Dao Wang clan's plan. If he knew, he would have never given Wang Lin this fragment. After fusing this fragment into his body, the black-haired Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange light. He stepped forward and hit his chest with his right hand. 5-element true body, get out. 3 ethereal essences, get out. Restriction, absolute beginning, get out. With one wave, aside from slaughter, thunder, and absolute end, all of his essences left the body. Now the black-haired Wang Lin was like the incarnation of slaughter and destruction as he charged at Dao Yi. The two of them began a thunderous slaughter in the sky. Dao Yi let out a roar. Borrowing the power of his son, everything in the world integrated into one. Each attack and movement contained the power of his faith spell, and he collided with Wang Lin. The black-haired Wang Lin collapsed again and again but looked immortal. Damn it, after this Wang Lin takes on this black-haired form, he is so difficult to deal with. Dao Yi endured the pain of the ancestral curse and continued to attack, but he was forced back by the black-haired Wang Lin again and again. This caused the ancestral curse in his body to worsen. As thunderous rumbles echoed, the black-haired Wang Lin's body collapsed once more into countless strands of black gas. They seemed to contain life and rushed toward Dao Yi. The black gas gathered before Dao Yi. A finger stretched out from the black gas, reaching toward Dao Yi. Dao Yi suddenly turned around, and his face was almost a complete skull now. Flesh and blood fell off as bloody water oozed out from his body. He threw a punch, and the entire world seemed to stop moving, including the black gas. When his punch landed, Wang Lin's finger collapsed, and the black gas was knocked back. The black gas reformed into Wang Lin's body 100 feet away. But Dao Yi retreated 3 steps. The slaughter aura, which was already difficult to get rid of, seemed to have fused with the ancestral curse. This made him let out a painful howl at the sky. The black-haired Wang Lin's eyes were cold, and he rushed out once more. At the same time, the 5-element true body that he had forced out completed the last essence, the metal essence, after integrating the sword fragment. Although the completion of the metal essence hadn't formed an essence true body, it allowed the 5-element true body to become complete. As the power cycled, the 5 elements perfectly fused into one. Wang Lin's 5-element true body erupted with shocking power and looked up at Dao Yi. As he stepped forward, the 5 elements surrounded him. The 5 colors around his body were like a 5-colored cape. The black represented earth. The yellow represented metal. The green represented wood. The blue represented water. The red represented fire. The 5-element true body closed in and raised his right hand, causing the 5 elements to move. The black earth turned into a vast land. This land was an illusion, but it was filled with shocking earth essence. Thunderous rumbles echoed. It seemed like the earth had awakened and turned into an earth giant. It threw a punch at Dao Yi. There was also metal. After it appeared, it shined brightly and turned into countless swords. Each of the swords was only an illusion, but they were filled with endless metal essence. They turned into a rain of swords that fell on Dao Yi. The wood essence turned into a 1,000-foot-tall tree in the sky and smashed toward Dao Yi. This giant tree looked like it could break the world apart. Water and fire turned into waves of fire and water that swept toward Dao Yi. At the same time, the black-haired Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He stepped forward, and his body exploded into countless black thunderbolts that rushed toward Dao Yi. This was his strongest attack when the slaughter original body and the 5-element true body joined forces. Thunderous rumbles echoed across the world, and Dao Yi let out a miserable scream. His clothes were broken, and blood was flowing out from the gaps on his face. The blurry sun behind him suddenly collapsed. The collapse of the sun created a powerful impact and caused the incoming wood to disintegrate and the earthman to shatter. The sea of water and fire was pushed back, and the countless metal swords collapsed. The 5 elements scattered and reformed into Wang Lin's 5-element true body. It also caused the black-haired Wang Lin's countless thunderbolts to explode. Black gas appeared and retreated to reform the black-haired Wang Lin's body. Dao Yi let out a miserable scream. The only things left on his face were his eyes. However, his eyes were like ghostly fire and were now filled with fear. He feared not only Wang Lin, but also the ancestral curse that had completely erupted. He could clearly feel the ancestral curse was beginning to burn his soul. If he continued to fight instead of immediately leaving to adjust himself, he was likely to fall. This sovereign is unwilling to let this be. Dao Yi let out a roar and rushed into the sky to leave. He no longer dared to fight. He felt the shadow of death shrouding over him. Restriction essence seal, the sky. Absolute beginning essence sundered night. Life and death, karma, true and false, cover the world. The black-haired Wang Lin and Wang Lin S5-element true body said at the same time. Just as Dao Yi was about to leave, the destroyed sky above him suddenly flashed and a rune appeared. This was Wang Lin S restriction essence S sealing power. After the restriction essence, a bright sun appeared. It released a dazzling light and fused with the restriction essence, creating the scene of the light sealing the world. Shortly after, the three ethereal essences suddenly appeared and formed a fog that surrounded the seal. This fog contained Wang Lin as Tao, and it spread across the sky. It contained a powerful sealing force. You want to leave? The black-haired Wang Lin and his 5-element true body charged at Dao Yi. In the distance, Judy revealed a look of shock. As his attack collided with Gemini, he treated and was about to charge toward Wang Lin. Gemini's face was pale, but she clenched her teeth and blocked him once more. Judy let out an angry roar. Gemini, that's enough. The Celestial Emperor is already dead. Are you going to allow Dao Yi to be destroyed by the ancestral curse as well? Gemini stopped. After all, she belonged to the Celestial clan. Dao Yi's body also began to decay. Right now, he looked extremely terrifying. Pain and madness filled his eyes, and an invisible flame appeared around his body. He let out a roar and punched at the sky. The world rumbled, and the seal created by the restriction, absolute beginning, and the three ethereal essences collapsed. Dao Yi, who had burned his own body to borrow power, immediately rushed out. Seeing Dao Yi about to escape, the eyes of the black-haired Wang Lin and his 5-element true body lit up at the same time. You can escape, but the Dao Yi sect can't escape. These words came from black-haired Wang Lin, and they were filled with slaughter and destruction. How can you fight whenever you want to fight and leave whenever you want to leave? These were the words of the 5-element true body. Dao Yi's eyes were filled with madness. He didn't hesitate to burn his body in order to leave and go into closed-door cultivation. What sect? What celestial clan? None of that mattered now. He rushed forward and his body became a blur. At the same time, Judy charged forward while Gemini paused. He looked like he was going to stop Wang Lin's pursuit, but was actually filled with killing intent. The black-haired Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he didn't hesitate at all. As Dao Yi escaped and Judy closed in, his body turned into countless strands of black gas and flew toward the 5-element true body. They fused into a blurry figure. Restriction essence, return. Absolute beginning, return. Life and death, karma, true and false, return. 5-element true body. Condense, slaughter, thunder essence true body. Condense, ethereal essences, condense. The blurry figure rapidly changed to form Wang Lin's body. His hair was not completely black and not completely white, but half black and half white. As he looked up, an aura that made Judy's pupils shrink erupted from Wang Lin's body. This was his strongest form aside from his avatar in the void. This was his peak form after he absorbed some of the celestial ancestor-s inheritance and fused his slaughter and 5-element true bodies together. Behind him, a large, strange black and white outline of a sun appeared. This sun was fuzzy and was a mere outline, but it caused the hearts of Haizi, Judy, Gemini, and the escaping Dao Yi to tremble. This is not formed by a spell. This is the son of the Grand Empyrean. This is impossible. He never went to the immemorial God realm. How could he have a Grand Empyrean son? Although it's blurry, but it is indeed the outline of a Grand Empyrean son. He actually used his own power to condense a Grand Empyrean sun by force. This person. The new chapter is late, but it has over 500 more words than the previous ones. I hope not to be hit. Wishing for the like button for the video. Grand Empyrean sun was a mix of black and white. It gave off a strange light that lit up the world and shrouded the void behind Wang Lin. This was Wang Lin's strongest power. When the Grand Empyrean sun appeared, Wang Lin stepped forward and rushed toward the shocked Dao Yi. Zhu Di's eyes became serious and his pupils shrank as he charged forward to stop Wang Lin. He could not watch Dao Yi fall to the ancestral curse. He didn't want the celestial clan to be in a miserable state where the balance with the ancient clan was broken. Now that the celestial emperor had fallen, nothing could happen to Dao Yi. As Zhu Di moved forward, white light covered his whole body. Behind him, a white sun appeared and formed a giant white wolf. It let out a roar and rushed forward to block Wang Lin. The two of them got closer and closer. Wang Lin, Dao Yi can't he be killed? Zhu Di let out a roar and the white wolf around him opened its mouth to devour Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression was calm. As the white wolf closed in, the black and white sun released a dazzling glow. It rapidly shrank and entered Wang Lin's body. This caused Wang Lin's body to contain the full power of the Grand Empyrean Sun's outline. He turned his body and kicked the wolf. At this point, one punch and one kick contained the power of the world and could trigger any kind of spell. With this kick, the void trembled. From a distance, this was no longer a collision of a white wolf and Wang Lin's kick, but the collision of a white sun and a black and white sun. Thunderous rumbles echoed in all directions. As the thunderous rumbles echoed, Grand Empyrean Zhu Di's white sun trembled. The white wolf howled as its huge body collapsed due to the impact. Only the head remained, and it was knocked back. Zhu Di's expression was pale and his eyes were filled with shock. He was under the effect of the ancestral curse and therefore needed to divide his power to suppress it, and he had just battled Gemini, causing him to be in his weakest state, but he was still a Grand Empyrean. He was even extremely powerful among Grand Empyreans. And although the other party had condensed the outline of a Grand Empyrean sun, it was only an outline. It was like a seed that had not flowered or bore fruit yet. However, with just the outline of a Grand Empyrean sun, Wang Lin had been able to force him back, while he displayed the full power of what he could use right now. This made no sense. The only explanation was that the Grand Empyrean sun Wang Lin had condensed was not ordinary. This is definitely not an ordinary Grand Empyrean sun. Zhu Di rushed forward once more. When the two Grand Empyrean suns collided, Wang Lin was forced back and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. His body trembled and he rushed into the sky. Zhu Di's hasty action was unable to block Wang Lin. In a flash, he rushed into the sky toward Dao Yi, who was covered in a large amount of black gas and whose body was rotting away. With one step, he closed in. When Dao Yi saw that he couldn't escape, madness appeared in his eyes and he let out a roar as he raised his right hand. He reached into the void, and a black half-moon blade appeared in his hand. This blade was covered in killing intent, and he turned around to cut Wang Lin. Wang Lin, if you want to kill me, then die with me. In Dao Yi's madness, his blade descended on Wang Lin, but as the blade closed in, Wang Lin's body trembled and turned into 99 afterimages. The 99 afterimages surrounded the area, and as the blade swept by, thunderous rumbles echoed. More than 90 were destroyed, but the remaining broke through and condensed into Wang Lin before Dao Yi. Wang Lin's face was pale. After he appeared, he raised his right hand and pointed to the spot between the eyebrows of Dao Yi's skull. With a bang, Dao Yi's body fell from the sky, and a miserable scream echoed. The ancestral curse completely erupted, and as he fell, a large amount of flesh and blood fell. Now half of his body under his broken clothes were mere bones. With a bang, he landed on the broken ground. I am unwilling to let this be. Dao Yi was filled with resentment. If not for the ancestral curse, he would not end up like this before Wang Lin. But right now, he was in such a miserable state. Zhu Di turned around, gritted his teeth, and roared, Wang Lin, enough! You can take away the celestial ancestor's head. Hai Zi, you cannot attack Wang Lin, but you have to save Dao Yi. Hai Zi silently pondered and raised her right hand. She waved at Dao Yi, who had landed on the ground. With the power of the Dao Wang clan, gather the thoughts of the living and the existence of the dead. Let those that exist to continue to exist. Let those that are about to dissipate stop. Hai Zi waved her hand and blue ripples echoed around Dao Yi. When Wang Lin closed in, he felt like he had entered quicksand. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and a large amount of black threads spread out from his body toward Dao Yi. These black threads penetrated the ripples and reformed into Wang Lin's body before Dao Yi. In Dao Yi's madness, he wanted to desperately resist, but his ancestral curse had erupted completely. Just as he was about to use a spell, it collapsed and his body decayed even more. He let out a miserable scream when Wang Lin appeared before him. Wang Lin's foot landed on his chest, making it impossible for him to struggle. You battle when you want to battle and stop when you want to stop. How can things go as you wish? This Dao Yi attacked me first. If you want me to stop, you have to pay the price. Wang Lin had one foot on Dao Yi and calmly looked at the rapidly incoming Zhu Di. Zhu Di's expression was gloomy, and he stopped 1,000 feet away from Wang Lin. He stared at Wang Lin, and as time passed, the ancestral curse inside his body became violent. Zhu Di took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. What do you want? Wang Lin's right foot exerted a bit of force on Dao Yi's body, and the black gas spread even more. This stimulation caused Dao Yi's madness to scatter, and he experienced a sharp pain he had never felt before, along with the sense of humiliation from being stepped on by Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes flashed an undetectable amount, and he said, I want that baby skull. Zhu Di frowned. Dao Yi, give me that skull and you can leave. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he held the initiative. He had never thought about killing Dao Yi. After all, he had been able to seize control of the situation because all the Grand Empyreans were being affected by the ancestral curse. Not because his power allowed him to ignore everything. Dao Yi stared at Wang Lin, as if he was going to memorize Wang Lin's appearance. Dao Yi, give it to him. Zhu Di let out a cold snort. Dao Yi knew he didn't have much time. With his current injuries, it would already be difficult for him to remove the ancestral curse. If it were delayed anymore, then even if he got rid of the curse, his cultivation would be damaged too much. With a howl, as Wang Lin's right foot loosened, his right hand reached at the void and took out a fist-sized skull. Dao Yi released the skull in his hand and then charged into the sky. He broke the void and disappeared without a trace. This skull looked like that of a baby and was filled with death aura. The feeling seemed to be fused with the void and surged in all directions. The familiar feeling clearly appeared in Wang Lin's heart. He waved his right hand and the skull flew toward himself. He put it away inside his storage space. After receiving the skull, Wang Lin retreated back next to the celestial ancestor's head. The madman was still in a coma on the head. Wang Lin, the Dao Wang clan, and I lay out this plan. Yet, the person with the biggest harvest is you. This old man will remember this. Leave this place, and you better become a Grand Empyrean as soon as possible. Otherwise, once this old man gets rid of the curse, you will have to give me an account for this matter. Zhu Di looked at Wang Lin. And you, Gemini, if Dao Yi doesn't recover, and we go to war with the ancient clan, then you can watch the blood of my celestial clan flow. Your purple Yang sect will not escape alone. This old man originally had a good plan. I was going to let all the Grand Empyreans divide the celestial ancestor's relics so we could become stronger, to make it so that there will no longer be a celestial emperor. But because of you, all of this changed. You have to bear the consequences of this matter. Zhu Di sneered. Gemini silently pondered and didn't speak, but there was a flash of confusion and complication in her eyes. Wang Lin apologized in his heart. He looked at Grand Empyrean Gemini and made a decision in his heart. I owe Grand Empyrean Gemini a lot. I can only do my best to stop the war between the ancient clan and the celestial clan to make it so she doesn't regret her decision today. Grand Empyrean Gemini silently pondered for a bit and then coldly said, Since have I decided to do something, there is no need for you to say more. Good. Good. Zhu Di began to laugh. His eyes turned cold as he looked at Wang Lin. This old man can let you take away the celestial ancestor's head, but you can take Lian Daofei. This matter is not up for discussion. Take the head and leave. This old man is already backing down. If you still want to be stubborn about taking him away, then this old man will stop suppressing the ancestral curse. I'll risk a difficult recovery in the future to make you stay. Gemini, you can help him obtain the celestial ancestor's head, but now the celestial emperor is dead and the celestial ancestor's head is broken. You should know Lian Daofei's role in this place, Zhu Di slowly said. Wang Lin's expression was calm, but his pupils shrank. Gemini silently pondered for a bit and then looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin leave Lian Daofei behind. The end of the year is here, brothers. Give a like for Leo. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. If only Zhu Di had asked, he could have ignored it. He had come to the palace to save the madman. How could he give up merely due to Judy's threat? And Wang Lin didn't believe that Judy would stop suppressing the ancestral curse at the cost of an extremely difficult recovery. However, Wang Lin could not ignore Gemini's words. In his heart, he already owed Gemini. Since she had also asked, Wang Lin had to silently ponder. After a long time, Wang Lin said with difficulty, "Give me a reason." He didn't look at Judy, but at Grand Empyrean Gemini. The Celestial Emperor has fallen. Lian Daofei is very important to the Celestial Clan. Gemini sighed and looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin Lian Daofei must be left behind. The person who spoke was Hai Zi, who had been silent. She looked at Wang Lin and calmly said, "This place is the Forbidden Palace. Although it has collapsed, it will recover on its own in the Celestial Clan. The Forbidden Palace is very important, because the Celestial Ancestor S head is here. The Celestial Ancestor S head is used to suppress the 72 spirits of the Celestial Clan. It is because of this head that the 72 spirits have remained sealed. Once the head is damaged, it no longer has the power to suppress the spirits that are still alive. Even those that are dead will return back to the void once the suppression is lost. At that time, the entire Celestial Clan will go into chaos, and the continents will collapse and dissipate. The entire Celestial Clan will face a catastrophe according to my clan's previous plan. We didn't want to destroy the Celestial Clan, so after dividing the head, we were going to choose one person to sleep here. That person would replace the Celestial Ancestor S head and become the existence that would suppress the 72 spirits. The person we chose was Lian Daofei. He carries the Celestial Ancestor S bloodline and has inherited part of the Celestial Ancestor S cultivation. My clan has also planted a seed in him over the years. Once it S activated, he will become a Grand Empyrean due to the Celestial Ancestor inheritance he absorbed. With his Grand Empyrean cultivation and my clan's secret spell, a suppression effect can be created. This is why you can take him. If you try to take him by force, then I'll have to stop you as well, Izzy softly said. Gemini sighed as she looked at Wang Lin and spoke for the second time. Wang Lin, leave Lian Daofei here. There will be no danger to his life. He will remain here and suppress the 72 spirits. Judy coldly looked at this and didn't speak. Wang Lin silently pondered and looked at the madman that was laying on the Celestial Ancestor S head. He didn't hesitate when you spoke. I'll give up the Celestial Ancestor S head and only take away Lian Daofei. Give up? Even if the Celestial Ancestor S head were placed back, it could not play the role of suppression because it has been cut open by the Celestial Emperor. The power inside it has already scattered, and can no player be used to suppress the spirits. Judy let out a cold snort. Wang Lin's face immediately turned pale and his eyes were filled with struggle and complication. Their words were simple, and there wasn't much to think about. Wang Lin knew was the truth. Wang Lin, leave Lian Daofei here. This was the third time Gemini said this. Time slowly passed and Wang Lin's struggle set off a huge wave in his heart. After a long time, he let out a sigh. He could not take away the madman by force. Grand Empyrean Gemini would stop him, and Judy would act as well. Along with Hai Zi, Wang Lin could not take the madman away with the three of them joining forces. What was more, taking away the madman would result in the Celestial Clan being in chaos. Wang Lin didn't care, but it would affect Grand Empyrean Gemini, who had helped him a lot. The Purple Yang sect might even be destroyed. While silently pondering, Wang Lin revealed a bitter expression. He looked at the unconscious madman and slowly closed his eyes. Madman, when Wang Lin, return to the Imperial Palace, it will be when I rescue you. I swear it. Wang Lin waved his right hand and put the Celestial Ancestor S head into his storage space. He then suddenly looked up. Judy, there is no need for you to find me. I'll return in the future. After Wang Lin spoke, he flew into the sky and didn't look back. Leaving the madman behind made his heart sting. He had gained the most on this trip to the Imperial Palace. He had obtained part of the Celestial Ancestor S inheritance, obtained the Celestial Ancestor S head, and even condensed the outline of his Grand Empyrean son. But in the end, he still couldn't take the madman. If there was a choice, Wang Lin would give back all these fortunes to take the madman away, but all of this was already decided from the start. With the Dao Wang clan's Ancestor S divination, He likely even saw the Celestial Emperor possessing the madman. Perhaps it was part of the plan, but it was broken by me. Even the Celestial Emperor's self-destruction and the ancestral curse being shared by the 4 Grand Empyreans was likely foreseen by the Dao Wang clan's ancestor. But he didn't tell them, nor did he try to stop it. Perhaps he did it for his clan member of this generation, Haizi, all in order to dissipate my anger toward his clan. Just what did he see to make him so kind to me? Is it because in his mind, my existence is more fearful than a Grand Empyrean? Wang Lin thought about the words left by the genius of the Dao Wang clan in the Great Soul Sect. All those respectful use the voice used. Grand Empyrean Gemini looked at Lian Daofei, who was in a coma, and let out a sigh. She followed Wang Lin into the distance. After Wang Lin exited the broken sky of the Forbidden Palace, he could not bear it and looked down. He saw Haizi use her clan's spell. The unconscious madman released bright golden light. As the golden light spread, a golden sun surrounded the madman. As the golden light spread out, Wang Lin felt the fluctuations of a Grand Empyrean spread out from his body. This Grand Empyrean power was not outlined like Wang Lin's Grand Empyrean sun, but a completely formed sun. Lian Daofei became the Grand Empyrean of the Celestial Clan after the Celestial Emperor fell. However, the 5th Grand Empyrean would sleep forever and never awaken. The purpose of his existence was to replace the Celestial Ancestor's head to suppress the 72 spirits. Wang Lin looked at the madman and watched him turn into a mountain as the golden sun shrouded his body. This mountain was completely golden and shot into the clouds. When the mountain's peak appeared, the broken earth began to recover. But instead of the 9 mountains before, there was only this golden mountain. The sky also recovered, and the entire world recovered eventually. Wang Lin's gaze lingered on the golden mountain for a moment longer before he turned around. He remembered the oath he had made and suddenly left. After leaving the Forbidden Palace and entering the collapsed palace, Wang Lin stepped forward and disappeared without a trace. When he reappeared, he was in the Imperial Palace in the Ancestral City. The Imperial Palace was in ruins, and at a glance only the statue stood there alone. The statue was that of the Celestial Ancestor. He looked up at the sky with his arms stretched open as if he were casting a spell. Wang Lin looked at the statue and silently pondered. Ripples echoed beside him and Grand Empyrean Gemini walked out. The era of the Celestial Ancestor is over and his protection is gone from now on. The Celestial Clan will no longer have any Celestial Emperor bloodline. Grand Empyrean Gemini looked at the statue and let out a sigh. Wang Lin calmly said, "Thank you. This was my promise to you, even though the cost was very high, but I have to thank you for choosing me when I was merely 2 little girls." Gemini slowly said, "You indeed can take Lian Daofei away. I hope you understand, after all, I belong to the Celestial Clan and you belong to the Ancient Clan." Wang Lin's expression remained the same and he turned around to look at Grand Empyrean Gemini. As for how she could see through his identity, Wang Lin didn't ask or try to cover it up. "Thank you." Wang Lin clasped his hands and bowed at Grand Empyrean Gemini. "I have obtained the Celestial Ancestor's eyes, so now I will head back to the Purple Yang sect. What about you? Will you leave or come back with me to the Purple Yang sect?" Wang Lin looked toward the Eastern continent before he said, "I want to head back to the Great Soul sect, then leave the Celestial Clan." Grand Empyrean Gemini silently pondered for a moment and then let out a sigh. "I don't know if helping you was right or wrong." She shook her head and then purple light spread out from her body. She split back into the 2 little girls. They looked back at Wang Lin with their innocent smiles and waved goodbye at Wang Lin as they flew off into the sky. "Wawa, after we return, I am going to sleep. I am so tired. Han Han, when we get back, how about we first see if Little Wolf has been obedient before we rest?" "Okay, let's do that." The crisp and tender voices of the 2 little girls echoed like bells. Wang Lin looked at the 2 little girls flying away and muttered, "Thank you both." Wang Lin closed his eyes and then reopened them after a long time before flying off into the distance. He didn't see that in the ruins of the palace behind him, Haizi was silently looking at his back with a melancholy expression as he disappeared. "Haizi, let's go." Behind Haizi, Judy walked out with a tired expression. His body was covered in black gas, and he could almost no longer suppress the ancestral curse. "I don't blame you for not stopping him. That child is extraordinary. I am old, and it will help you if your clan has ties with him." Judy, who was surrounded by black gas, looked at Hai Zi with a kind and doting gaze. The last 2 days of the month are upon us, wishing for the like button for the video. Right now it's about doubling the likes for the video, very grateful, and will return the favor. The destruction of the Imperial Palace and fall of the Celestial Emperor didn't spread due to the suppression from Ju Di. The ruined palace returned to normal as if nothing had happened. The Celestial Emperor went into closed-door cultivation once more. This generation's Celestial Emperor, Lian Daojin, often went into closed-door cultivation, and the times were always uncertain. The entire Celestial clan didn't think too much of it. Wu Fang returned to the northern continent and immediately sealed himself in the never-melting glacier. He silently dispelled the ancestral curse inside his body. He had never attacked after being affected by the ancestral curse, so he would have a much easier time than Dao Yi and Ju Di. In addition, he had obtained the Celestial Ancestor's ears. Once he dispelled the ancestral curse and refined the ears, his cultivation level would increase greatly. Dao Yi dragged his mutilated body back to the Dao Yi sect while enduring the intense pain and suppressing the humiliation in his heart. He immediately chose to enter closed-door cultivation. However, the ancestral curse had fully erupted in his body and could not simply be expelled. However, Dao Yi was a Grand Empyrean and was not as simple as he looked on the surface. Gemini had once called him fake mask guy. In order to dispel the ancestral curse without affecting his cultivation later, he gathered all the Empyrean exalts and several ascendant Empyreans. He also called a lot of golden exalts and forced the curse to be split among everyone. The ancestral curse was very strong, so the golden exalts immediately died after touching it. Even Empyrean exalts immediately let out miserable howls as their bodies began to rot. Although they could last a bit longer, the final result was still death. Only ascendant Empyreans could survive thanks to their powerful cultivation, but the price was still great. After all the Empyrean exalts and ascendant Empyreans under Dao Yi had helped bear the curse, Dao Yi searched for third-step cultivators like crazy. Even if they could only help him bear a sliver of the curse, it would benefit him greatly. This cruel method to share the burden of the ancestral curse made the Dao Yi sect almost become a dead sect. Ju Di brought Hai Zi back to Mount Emperor and immediately went into closed-door cultivation. He was powerful, so he could slowly dissipate the curse on his own. In addition, with Hai Zi's help, the power of the ancestral curse would gradually dissipate with time. Only Grand Empyrean Gemini wasn't affected by the curse because they weren't greedy. The two little girls went into closed-door cultivation once they returned to fuse with the Celestial Ancestor's eyes. Once they came out, they would be able to reverse the weakness caused by the accident in their reincarnation. The Celestial clan still had 5 Grand Empyreans, but the 5th Grand Empyrean only slept in the space under the palace. He had turned into a golden mountain and was suppressing the 72 spirits in the 72 continents. Under this mountain, the madman still never awakened, as if he was awaiting for Wang Lin's next arrival. Half a year later, the Celestial clan's eastern continent, Heavenly Bull Continent. The Heavenly Bull Continent that was once covered in mountains had lost a lot during the war against the Green Devil Continent. This caused the landscape of the Heavenly Bull Continent to change. However, the power structure of the continent didn't change much. The Great Soul Sect and the Gui Yi Sect were still the strongest, with many smaller sects under them. The disciples that had been sent to the ancestral city had returned to their sect. They all obtained their own fortunes and would become the future of their sects. Great Soul Sect. After Wang Lin left, esteemed Green Bull had gone into closed-door cultivation, not caring about worldly matters. The matters of the sect were left to the elders, but he did set any conditions. The mountain given to Wang Lin was to be preserved and was made into a forbidden land that others would not enter. Many people were confused about this. When Wang Lin became famous in the Empyrean trial, and rumors of the white-haired ascendant Empyrean spread, the people of the Great Soul Sect were confused. They slowly figured out through various clues that Wang Lin was indeed the white-haired Empyrean exalt. They vaguely understood the meaning of esteemed Green Bull's action. Yan Luan, an elder of the past, now held a high position in the sect and could decide on some important matters. She could have moved from her mountain and gone into the depths of the Great Soul Sect for a better cave. But she never left. At the peak of her mountain, she could see Wang Lin's cave in the distance. Whenever she recalled the past, she would stand at the top of the mountain and silently ponder as she looked at Wang Lin's mountain. Fan Shanmeng and Fan Shanlu were still her disciples. Her personal grievances with Wang Lin had been resolved. Many years had passed, enough time for it to be forgotten. In the Great Soul Sect there was one more elder. His name was Du Qing. His body was not made of flesh and blood, but a piece of wood. After his origin soul condensed inside the wood, he made it into his body. He was personally appointed by esteemed Green Bull as an elder without the cultivation level of an elder. His life has been very comfortable, far better than before. Time passed. As the countless sunrises and sunsets passed, the Great Soul Sect seemed to not change much, just like the Heavenly Bull continent. The mountains were still the same mountains and the pavilions were still the same as before. Wang Lin stood outside the Great Soul Sect and looked at the familiar sect. When he first arrived here, he only had a vague understanding of the Great Soul Sect. He had slowly thought that he had gained an understanding of the sect until he left and experienced many things. Finally, at the Imperial Palace far away from the Great Soul Sect, he found a connection to the Great Soul Sect. He finally knew that even now there was still something he didn't know about the Great Soul Sect. Dao Wang Clan, a genius that no one could surpass this Great Soul Sect's ancestor. Perhaps he is dead or perhaps he is not dead, but his plan spanned across countless years, and he divined the events of today, back then. He had schemed against everyone. In his eyes, everyone was a pawn. In the end, his plan of releasing the seal on his clan and causing the Celestial Emperor's bloodline to disappear succeeded, to allow his last remaining clan member to gain freedom. Wang Lin looked at the Great Soul Sect and had a complicated expression. He had come to the immortal astral continent long ago, but only now did he know that the remote Heavenly Bull continent that the all-powerful people looked down upon had a hidden secret that could be traced to countless years ago. With a sigh, Wang Lin stepped toward the Great Soul Sect. His current cultivation level was far above that of esteemed Green Bull and all the members of the Great Soul Sect, so no one noticed his arrival. In the Great Soul Sect, Wang Lin saw Du Xing and Yan Luan, who was standing on the mountain with a fiery red dress. He also saw Fan Shanmeng and Fan Shanlu. Wang Lin didn't pause and walked into the depth of the Great Soul Sect. He went to the Soul Scripture Pavilion that he had gone to back then. This Soul Scripture Pavilion had to be opened by esteemed Green Bull back then. However, now, with one step, Wang Lin was already standing outside the Soul Scripture Pavilion. This was a 7-story pavilion covered by a thin layer of mist. Outside the pavilion were 2 large bee status that were very lifelike. The pavilion's gate was closed, and it was silent. There were 3 large words above the gate. Soul Scripture Pavilion? This pavilion looked like it had 7 floors, but in truth, there was an 8th, 9th, and even 10th floor. Esteemed Green Bull had said that not even he could enter the TAF floor. That was where the Great Soul Sect's old ancestor was laid to rest. Wang Lin's expression was calm.